Hello. Hello. I said it's good to be back. It's good to be back. That was actually a line from a famous Oasis song there. You might have called Hello, which they played when they just began their new series of gigs around the UK and potentially the world. So, okay,
I
we're
thought
back.
they just had the one song, Wonderwall, and then they.
No, afraid not, mate. They just, whatever your favourite band is, they just had about 10 times better songs than them, so don't worry about it. Or do
Okay,
you like
okay.
fucking Pimp L from the fucking Ghetto Brigade? Like, oh, I prefer his album.
What?
I prefer his album, The Tesseract fucking Booty Call. No, it's really spiritual. It spoke to me like,
Bro,
yeah,
I got some bass ones. I'm System of a Down. I'm a little
Okay.
bit of Rage Against the
Okay.
Machine. You know
All
how
right.
it is.
Okay.
It's pretty
Old
good.
school.
Come
Fair
on now.
enough.
Come on now.
Okay. I think first things first, by the way, we actually do, since people have asked for it, we have got a whole bunch of merch. And so LFN merch is available. We're going to be giving away mugs, desk mats, keychains, and more. There's a giveaway, so listen up. To be eligible for the giveaway, join the Last Free Nation Discord server. It'll be linked in the description box below. Leave a comment on the merch giveaway channel before 11:59 a.m. Pacific time next Sunday, which is the 13th of July. So you've got loads of time once you see this VOD. Just go and do this. And then we will announce the multiple winners throughout next week. So stay tuned to Last Free Nation, the Last Free Nation Culture channel, and our social media pages for official winner announcements. Links for all of our channels, our Discord server, and our merch shop are in the description of this episode. Thank you for supporting our network. Right, let's get into it, because here's the thing, Yamato. This actually might be, I hope, look, it's not going to be super long like some of the other ones, but if people want us to go in on the actual games as opposed to more of the big narrative, I think this is the perfect episode, mate, because holy fuck did this last week or so deliver. Because even though like the opening round where it was like all, like the Western teams against the Asian teams, look, that didn't really deliver. But bro, it happened again. The most slept on series probably ever in MSI history is that one that happened last year when Talon took BLG to 5 games in that opener, but no one watched it. And so because BLG won and they ended up coming second, everyone just in their brain goes, who gives a fuck about Southeast Asia? Boys, you already saw CF4 quite literally win more games against KC than KC won against them at first stand. And mate, this series wasn't even just we took them to 5 games. Bro, considering later in this episode, we're going to talk about how awesome T1 looked against BLG. Mate, CF4 must have them. That could literally have been a 3-0, by the way. Like the first 3 games, they for real could have just won. And then the fourth one, they even miraculously got back into when it was completely done. So, like, I have to just let's just talk about CF4 first, mate, because I have to say, like, this can't be a fluke after first stand as well, mate. Like, they showed you at first stand, they had some fucking game. And some of these players, like this Honkyu guy, it's just for real. This isn't even just some, like, upset. These are BO5s, mate. Like, this is big boy shit. What did you think of this series?
No, we have to give a special shout out to Vestion because, like, the way he spoke about,
Sure.
his teams made me go back a little bit. I got a little bit more faith in them, but this has been
they were actually very legit. Yeah, fair play.
Like he said it. I thought, there's some regional bias there, but CFO is looking fantastic. It's like the usual suspects in Junjia. We expect him to do good. Dogo had a solid first stand, but Honkyu is just a super talent. Everyone's just taking for granted that the economy in the region is like worse, and everyone's just speculating about where he's going to go next. It's like, oh, Fnatic should import this guy. It's like, no, if somebody's importing this guy, it's like a top 3 LPL team.
Yes.
They're flying him in instantly, and they are spending money that you can't even dream of, whether it's like a Weibo or something to replace Yahoo or something like this. But I think CFO, I thought in terms of their objective setup, I thought their biggest poison would be that in the region, they got away with so much. But even at this event, I think in terms of their setup, in terms of how they play side, how they connect together, and the range of play is just immaculate. We had such a long conversation about how, for example, T1 could utilize 2 ADCs and how they could swap around deeper in the series. Maybe if it diverges into one direction, they will go in one direction. And they just manage this double top lane situation super, super cool and slick. But I can say that Driver looks a lot better at this event than Rest. So maybe they just stick to him, but it makes them a little bit more predictable in terms of the direction. I think in terms of CFO, especially that series against T1, definitely T1 similar to the other teams like GenG, AL, they started very, very slow. I thought those early games didn't look that great for T1, especially like around mid lane. Like Faker was getting killed, getting caught against CFO. Honkyu was just a way better mid laner in that series. But then it's like in game 4, when Keria just has to do like Superman shit for them to actually get back into the game on the Poppy, that was their game to lose 100%. CFO super legit. I think even the series against AL, it's like usually that should be a wash, but I think it's interesting enough to warrant that. Oh, maybe there's an angle here.
Oh, by the way, I'll to touch briefly on what you said there about T1 as well, mate. That is the person they should thank, is fucking Keria, mate. That was some, like, as we say, like fucking like pants stuck to this arse of your fucking. Like, you just sweated on that game, mate. T1 was scared, and they thought they were going to fucking lose that game, mate. And by the way, do you know what's hilarious? Cover your ears if you're a G2 fan. What Keria did in that game is exactly what you guys don't have since you kicked Mickey X out your team, you idiots. That's exactly what Mickey X used to do last year. Even if you told me he was in the whole game, it's a bad set, he would get one, like, insane Poppy play like that off every fucking series that was, like, a game-winning play. Because if you didn't see that, he knocked out, like, 2 carries as well, the fucking fight, or, like, the mid and the jungle or so. It was ridiculous, mate, like that. Because if you saw this series, that actually does play into the CFO narrative. Mate, this isn't just like some fluke. It wasn't like some LPL shit like, right, hey, let's just like fight all the time, and if we happen to outhand them, we win. Mate, it's actually incredible how decisive all the little picks and plays CF4 went for. Like, they by the way, what amazing use they made of that Pantheon in that game. If they saw a pick, they just went for it. Even though it's, bro, this is T1. You're supposed to see those nameplates and think twice, like, maybe should I go for this player? You know, maybe I just hold up. They were going for fucking picks all over the place whenever they would engage, by the way. They also did that thing that was awesome, which is these guys really, I wonder what the scrim actual environment's like at this tournament, because these guys look like they think they can win these games, mate. They don't look intimidated when all the health bars are fucking, when you do the beat 'em up phase where everyone's button bashing. They actually looked fucking fairly, like, poised. They were doing a really good job. And then you think of some of the T1 players. I'm not even going to super hard flame a bunch of them. I think they just got beaten, straight up outplayed in some of these fights. Some of the dragon fights as well. Like, oh, mate, this is why it's so cool that they didn't just, like, almost beat T1, then just lose to MKOI. Mate, they just gave MKOI the fucking business too, mate. Like, these guys are legit. Think about this. First stand, they really could have been in the final. They're going to be, like, 5th to 6th here. But wait, it's not, I'm with you. I can't even write that AL series off now. I have to say they've got a chance to be in it and win games. Like, this is already, forget even this tournament, mate. I don't imagine they go in top 3 here. I'm not going to make some ridiculous prediction. But I'll tell you what, it makes me fucking hyped to see this team at Worlds, though. By the way, why couldn't this team be in the bracket stage, guys? I think that's totally plausible. If you think about, like, BO1s and BO3s, mate, they could get all the Western teams in a BO1. And in a BO3, you make it short enough, looks like they could get a bunch of the Asian teams too. Like, CF4, actually, it's why, I'll tell you the analogy for what I have here, Yamato. It's why, if you really like a sport or a discipline, you should never write it off and think it's only because of your favorite player. Because I can give you an example of this right now. I did think I was pretty much done watching tennis, because my era of tennis was, of course, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. By the way, Djokovic is old as fuck now. He's like 38. He's at the point, he's at like the Faker age where it's like, maybe if you hang around in the game, you get your chance to, like, you know, beat the other guy with your nerves and, like, you know, smarts. But if you talk about just a straight up, like, end-to-end match, like, the other players are better now. So I thought, right, well, the problem is when someone like a Federer retires, you can never get a player like that again. When someone like Nadal retires, that's a once-in-a-lifetime player. And the joke is, if anyone's following tennis right now, 2 players came along called Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner, and they're like the reborn fucking, like, Federer and, like, like Djokovic or something, mate. It's like they actually have, like, similar hallmarks. They all look really excellent, and they're already, like, showing, like, super sick games where it's like, if you liked that style of play, actually get ready. The next fucking one's up, mate. And that's the vibe I get on Honkyu, because my big fear, soon as Maple last year was like, that's it for me, guys. You're like, oh, well, that's it, isn't it? Because part of what was even getting him by in the latter years was he had 1,000,000 games of international experience. Like, he wasn't the guy who'd choke if he played the top team, because he played them all, and he'd played in the LPL, mate. He's already had a long career. He'd even been in bloody LCS. So when someone like that retires, you think, right, well, you know what? You can still have good players. You can have some good, but you're never going to have, like, a player like that again, are you? This fucking on-cue guy arrived right on time, mate. This is ridiculous. Like, all of a sudden, like, I am interested in this, like, region again, even though they got their region taken away and made into fucking Pacific. But I'll tell you what, that team, and also I'll give credit to Gam. I thought Gam was underpowered, but tell you what, they fucking played like they thought they had the players. Like, low-key, it's easy for us all to diss all the other regions. I actually, CF4 has my interest, mate. I'm kind of a fan now. I like them. I like to watch them play.
No, same. Like I will definitely just tune in for the CFO games, just because it's hard to keep track of all the regions like without them involved. But CFO, like they've earned our interest 2 times now. I thought first sound is a little bit of fluke. I was watching the games. I was worried that it was too mechanically driven in terms of their approach to the game, and I thought that they wouldn't be able to hang together with some of the other teams in this tournament. T1, one of them, and the fact that this whole tournament, in particular because it is, of course, fearless, it's very clear that everything is just like, are you capable of mechanically executing on a very, very wide range of champions? Like these teams that are stylistically tied into one thing are the ones that look the worst. Billy need to have like early game drafts that revolve around pushing bottom side. Yeah. Very predictable. It's like T1 just massacred them macro-wise. But you need to have like a range of play. You need to be able to play the poke style. You need to be able to play the defensive style. You need to play the early game style. You need to be able to set the pacing of the game and actually play towards a composition that needs to fight on Drake 3 and 4 without bleeding from everywhere. And CFO showed a very good range. I think in that series, especially that game 5, I think that the main thing that was disappointing was that that game 5 draft that they set up, like picking Tristana into Oriana and then the Zyra 2 into a heavy range composition. I just thought out of the draft they didn't really have good chances to begin with. So if there's a world where there is a rematch, well, which probably won't happen because still, even though I think there's a chance for them to beat AL does look favored. I would love to see like a potential rematch. Like this is where I hope there's a triple elimination just to see more matchups, because there's some matchups I would love to see that just aren't going to happen. And this is even in a world where we have double elimination, so it's hard to complain because I'll feel even worse when Worlds comes around. But I think in the grand scheme of things, CFO driver as well, like what he did to Midwin, he just humiliated him, like completely humiliated him across the board. They lost that one game when Rest got subbed in, which is, I don't know, that's probably the worst case scenario for someone that is a substitute. Driver 1-3 and Rest lost 1 against MKOI. But I think CFO is super legit. Very exciting. And, in the context of everyone always talking about, like always when EU fails, how everyone becomes the world's best GM, and everyone has the solutions to EU and everyone just regurgitates the same thing over and over again. I think if anything, as a GM, I would love to see a deeper responsibility in actually tapping into all available pools, because maybe there was an opportunity to pick up, players in Vietnam or like in Taiwan.
Yeah, we could have Honky's the joke, yeah.
It's just like tap into the regions, because I think on the flip side, it's like LTA, they don't have a player base, so they are forced to do this. And they are finding like, gems where there are,
No, man, I know what you mean.
Gems.
That is an angle I haven't heard people discuss. You're right. It's like we talk about the idea, because if you notice, everyone's brain just does the Cloud9. You just go to like, just get a career out of solo queue before he is amazing. It's basically what FlyQuest and fucking Cloud9 did to fix their teams. But the problem is, everyone's doing that, Yamato. That's like fucking spawn camping in Counter-Strike. Like, everyone's waiting for the player to enter solo queue, and you put those analyzers on, like fucking the power level tracker on fucking Dragon Ball Z episode 4 or whatever it is, like over 9,000. Like, everyone can do that right now. The problem there is you're competing against everyone. I know what you mean. The actual angle is stuff like CFO players, mate. Like, if you think of some of their people, I'll give you an obvious example right now. No one would do this. This is not how people in the West conceive of doing pickups. But I'll tell you an example of what I already think of. Look, the Honky one's obvious. His skills are fucking sick. He's like aggressive middle. But I'll tell you the other one immediately I think of when I watch all these CFO series, which is like, bro, couldn't we use like a Junji in the West? Like, I think of what Cad has done to top lane in LEC. GenG is fucking mega decisive, mate. He looks like he has mad experience. He doesn't get nervous under pressure internationally. That does not describe a lot of our best EU junglers, mates. Like, we've got some guys who are bangers in the LEC studio, but you put him in either fucking a homestand or actually on the international stage, and we're doing that thing of like, oh, well, next year, guys, oh, he's only 19. We're doing all that bullshit. Like, some of these guys just have the business already. Like, they're just fucking good players. I know what you mean. Like, I do feel like in the West, nobody even considers players from Vietnam, from Taiwan. They're just not even, we just pretend like it's Korea, or you just get European players. I think that's like the only options we're giving ourselves. But I know what you mean. There's probably quite a shrewd angle there where, look, yes, you probably now can't get Honkyu. He's probably going to cost $1 bazillion and go to the LPL, and with you. By the way, that should be the most obvious place ever the LPL recruits from. But I'll tell you what, you look at some of the others, like people like a GenG might be available, mate. Maybe that is the pickup that if you're like a, I don't know, a BDS, maybe you could make something really good out of that, mate. Maybe that could get you to Worlds.
And I think by extension, the main thing that I never see anyone saying, which I would say would be the angle for teams to improve, is just hire someone that is a dedicated scout all year long.
Sure.
Like a person that just, his job is to look at every available data point and find, you know, the next gem, because that's basically what Casey have. Like Casey have a guy that is just dedicated to the scouting aspect, and he was the one that you know, thought of Vladi, also Kalist. They're hiding in plain sight. There just needs to be a deeper investment, because I know most GMs, the way they work is like, oh, I have my network of guys. I'm going to ask them what they think about this player. Oh, this player worked there. I'm going to ask how his coach thinks about him. And that's about it. It's like they are trusting on the advice of other people without having, you know, a strong view of the game, even where they can't like judge a player for how he is in the server. Like they are just going of a word of mouth, and then they are making a list and building the team off of that. And I think that would be like a massive step forward, because I think it's just a massive advantage. And I don't buy into that whole thing. It's like, oh, we need to have it robs European players of opportunities. No, it's like if you bring great players over and they get to play against them and improve against them, that's a good thing. It's like the same thing with like Los Ratones, right? It's like I was like, people were saying, oh, they're just robbing EMEA Masters titles from these players. It's like, no, they get to scrim against very good players. They get to play on stage against very good players. This is like a good point of, you know, mentally you prepare to beat them, you tune yourself to beat them. That already is going to level you up. It was the same when G2 was the number one team with 2019, 2020, or 2018 Fnatic. It's like if every team in the region wants to beat you, that just levels up the whole region as a whole. So I'm of the idea, if you bring good players over, great players over, they're going to make your region better. And at the end of the day, I don't care what your password is. It's just like, are you playing good? Are you playing bad? That's the only thing I care about.
I tell you what we'll do. Since the European teams are out, let's do them. But let's start with MKOI, since we were just talking about the CF4 series. Bro, it's the CF4 series, even though, by the way, I'm actually giving a lot of props to CF4 on this show. It is the CF4 series that was more depressing for me than the BLG one, because I actually think the BLG one, there's a reason why everyone on these shows made the case that if you actually believe in El Yoya and you watched LPL, actually, the jungle angle, there was a very real chance El Yoya was going to be the better jungler in this series. And I'll tell you what, mate, even though this history will record this as a 3-1, this was almost 5 games, mate. Like, there was one pretty good game from Koi. I thought that fourth one, they were right in it till the bitter end. Like, there's really a world where you do a couple of non-fuck-up moments, and you could have made that 5. That could have been a more, like, scary series for BLG, maybe, than people expect. What did you think?
No, definitely. I had that game 4 when Midwin, like, I had the ambassador play around Nashor and they were in a winning position. I feel like MKOI...
Let's just talk about that for a second, right? As someone who's a coach, and that is one area I get mildly annoyed with, like fans when they critique pros, is even pros do things where they're sort of like not like he can in that play, he just turned his brain off. You know what I mean? Like he obviously in his brain, if he stops, he goes, well, I've just shown my entire spell rotation. It's all down. Like, no, in his brain, he's just sort of dicking around thinking they're not coming in. What would you say to that? Because I know that like anytime you get eliminated, by the way, people are going to go to the games you lose and they're going to pick moments like that and they're going to blame you for the whole thing. Listen, Merwin did not have at all a good tournament, I think. But like, I don't think that's the biggest stupid move of all time. Do you know what I mean? It was ill-advised, certainly, but like, come on, what did you think?
No, in those moments, I personally think those are moments that just happen. It's like that's a moment that just happens. Like, what are you supposed to tell a player? Like, he knows he fucked up. He feels bad about it. Yeah. It's just a moment of Like, what would it look like if I just want to like analyze everything? It's just that I think Koi was trying to figure out a way to actually play the game because they were slowly getting like choked out, poked out as well, and they couldn't like find a point of entry, and they were just tethering to the enemy a little bit too far forward, and it looked like Koi as a whole was a little bit too stressed about like losing HP and losing position because they just couldn't find the engage, and then eventually when you are looking for the engage for sort of three minutes, yeah, eventually an Asher is going to land, a Cinder Sun's going to land, and that person is going to look like a goofball because in the end, you need to tether yourself to the opponent to get information. And I think the bigger point there to review for MKOI is that they just needed to be way more trigger happy. Like they needed to send the Rise ult in, they needed to use Kalista ult in, they needed to just full send it instead of grouping on the mid wave and showing. The enemy had no mid turrets, and they also were playing Syndra and Ashe, and they just needed to find something snappy. But they were just kind of standing around waiting for the objectives to spawn, and Bilibili just figured out the game state way better than they did. They just figured out, it's like, oh, our Ashe and Syndra are super weak. We need to spot them. We need to be grouped up together. Skana needs to mark this angle. And then eventually they just crack the puzzle. But like Mirwin did a lot worse things than that one, because I agree with you. That was just like a brain fart moment where you get Ashe out in the head. Sure, you could flash it, but this is not what you judge the player off of. You can judge him for the CFO series for sure, because that was that series he got smacked on the head pretty much every game outside of like the Aurelia game.
No, the funny thing is, let's talk about G2. We'll do the conversation about the EU thing after the eulogy for EU, the eulogy or whatever, right? Which is on the G2 one. You know what's funny? Everyone it looks like is going to flame the fuck out of MKOI. Mate, I'm way more disappointed in G2 over this whole MSI. Like, in the planes, they were scraping through those games, mate. Then they come to the bracket. Right, here's what I have to be able to believe for corp reasons in the plane. It's okay. G2's just one of those teams that plays to their opponent's opposite. Well, you didn't do that against the really good teams. So, against the really, like, the joke is FlyQuest actually just fucking put you in a dumpster. That wasn't even a very good series. And then the upper bracket, right, you had the one fucking false hope game against G2, against GenG. Now, one, that was a good SKU1 game, but two, that's the first game GenG's played at the tournament. Who the fuck knows what shape they're in, how prepped they are, and after that, they just handled you. So I have to say, for me, I was really underwhelmed by the G2 angle, because remember, people, that they always do this, right? When G2's really good, they go, it's just a Caps team, Caps is the best. Then when G2's not good, they go, what can Caps do? He's 1v9. Say, oh, shut the fuck up. First of all, Caps isn't even Caps nowadays. Like, that's just not, I didn't see the miracle Caps players I've seen in the past. Like, I saw like couple of games of it tops, and he played a lot of games at this MSI if you add in playing. But you look at their squad, the biggest problem is this, Yamato. Nobody on any of our shows hyped G2 coming into it. Did you notice that? Wasn't a single person who was doing, no one even did what we did with BLG of like, hey, but you get those players in the server though, you know, fucking hell, who knows what like Bin and Night. No one even did that. No one even said that with Caps, by the way. Like, you come up in, that's not it. It wasn't on the table, because that isn't who G2's been. Like, they actually are, by the way, one of the most boring Dylan Falco teams I've ever witnessed play. You'd never believe he was the coach, mate. It just looks like they're just doing basic drafting. Secondly, like, the actual team itself just doesn't have magic. They've just got some good players. I actually don't think any player is bad. Even Labrov is just like, okay, you know, he's not like criminally hitting every game. But they haven't got many like elite looking players with the current team setup. And then also, probably the worst thing you could ever have in a tournament like this, they're not even like strong starters early game who get like a lead on you. They're just fucking gradually wind up into the game. Like this, I actually think it's easy to laugh at MKOI. G2 brought nothing to me at this tournament. I'm really underwhelmed.
Oh, it's like I rated them third worst, and I am disappointed. Like I put them above Furia and Gam, but this I think the main pain point is that I think we have gotten to the point where the one dimensionality of, I think it's easy to just hit on Labrov and say that SKU1 looks inexperienced. It's like that is easy to say. But when it comes to G2, I think Broken Blade and Hans Sama as players, they have made a career on playing in a very, very specific pocket. Like Hans Sama with the aggressive ADs. It's like we witnessed a world championship where diffusing G2 was banning Kalista Draven, and then the G2's Nexus would just explode. And it has, to some degree, we've seen that same identity in Hansama for a very long time. It's like he doesn't have super much dimension to his play. It's like, sure, this split, he added Ezreal, he had some Kaiser moments, but this is not necessarily what he's known for. And I think Broken Blade the same way. Either it's like some cheeky counter that nobody plays, or it's the tanks. And if you are in a top lane meta where the top lane blinds are as strong as they are, like Gwen or Rumble, and you kind of just sit there and hope that these champions are getting nerfed enough for you to get away with not playing it, like after 2.5 years, this shit just bites you really, really hard. And the Rumble is still strong. Rumble's still cooking G2 whenever it gets locked in, and as a champion, they need to be banned. And I think that the lack of depth when it comes to Hansama as BBS players, because I do think in certain circumstances, they can be the best we have coming out of Europe. But in Fearless, you need to be good in so many different circumstances that you just simply don't get away with that identity as a player anymore. And I think Labrov is easy to dunk on. I think in that GenG series, he looked better than usual because he actually was willing to fight and throw his body in there. Like there was that one moment he's like level 3 on Leona where he's just engaging on GenG after they did Drake, which I was like, oh, this is some character development, because in the end, if you are a G2 fan, you're kind of hoping that G2 just grow, because I think being ambitious at this tournament would just be fueled by delusion, which of course is okay because it's entertainment in the end. But Skewmond as well, still, he's early on in his first year. It was easy. It was fun to actually go back and read the threads of how everyone wanted to kick Yike. And now they're talking about oh, Yike should have never left and so forth. And it's just funny how the grass is always greener.
Oh,
and it's like Yike had issues in his opening split too. It just happened to be that, you know, Mickey and PB, like all of these guys, which is crazy. For Hansama was insane in that first winter split where they're playing like Ash Heimerdinger, and Mickey was just like everywhere to support every invade. While Yike in those games, he would tend to overreach, he would tend to like over invade, but it would be like fine because they were winning. And Yike was given time, and now his third year in, he's a fantastic player and a staple of the league. But Skewmond, he deserves more grace and more time. I think it's just a lot easier to grow in a team that is functioning, and I think Skewmond has still, you know, a good future in the LEC.
Certainly. I mean, first of all, he did have a pretty sick first game against fucking Canyon, for God's sake, the actual GOAT of jungle position on an unbeatable team. So, now, yes, he obviously shit the bed in game 4. That's it. Yeah, we get that. Yeah, we all have eyes. The question I have is, if you guys have eyes too, why do you only mention the last part where it was shit? Why do you not mention the really awesome game where he carried? Why? That's what I want to know. Almost seems like you're biased. And then also, I do think, pretty swear, the G2 topic to me is actually... what the real discussion is this, right? The reason I don't watch this and do what morons do, where you go, EU is doomed as a region. No. Here's the difference. In past years, the problem was you had all these mega players on G2, right? And then they were sick, potentially. And if they'd have ever made, you know, top 8 at Worlds, it would have been fine. If they'd have beaten a team on any of those series at MSI, it'd have been fine. Because you'd have had one team that had a really high placing at a tournament. You'd have been top 8 at Worlds, or you'd have been top 4 or top 3 at fucking MSI. That would be really dope. The problem was the team that you stacked all your eggs in didn't get it done, did they? Whereas then you go and you look now, this is what's so weird. I saw everyone do that same topic like you're talking about, Yamato, where they run back that thing of like, the GMing sucks. No. I'm going to go counterintuitive. And this isn't hot take point made, League of Legends, but it may as well be Yamato. I'll go the other way. The GMing's actually gotten better, which is why Europe's weaker. Because what you've done is take here's the thing, what was the most successful era ever in Europe, right? We're ignoring the beginning of the game when the Koreans and the Chinese weren't as good. The most successful period ever was 2019 to 2020, because on the one hand, you had the G2 super team, which really could beat anyone. Then you had Fnatic, who shouldn't beat the Asian teams, but could give them a decent game and could get top 8 or, you know, win a BO1 against someone. And then maybe you'd even have like a third, it might have been a Splice or someone who had like, you know, a mix of vets, a couple of up and coming, maybe a humanoid, and then maybe they can win like one game off someone. The difference now is this, cause G2 had a fuck up in their off season where it didn't work, their approach, they're not as strong. And then I think you have a bunch of teams that are all sort of like 7 or 8 out of 10s. And we just got 4 of them basically. And the issue at this tournament is, I do think actually this is where KC and Fnatic, having their own problems in our playoffs, fucked up MKOI and G2, because MKOI and G2 just did their jobs. They just did their jobs and got the international. But remember, our entire all LEC All Pro team was sat at home. It was the top side of KC and the bottom side of Fnatic. Well, the problem is, if you go and look at any other era for LCS, LEC, you can't have the entire every best player at his position sit at home and then go, hey, why aren't we doing well? It's like, because they're all the best players are with us on Twitch. The joke is, you could have had upset in your call watching Super going, yeah, it's not really working out against fucking like, the best players in the world. Is it Super? Like, you can't, like, it's not that you just need your captains of the world. You need all of them. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have to all be on one team either. If you could just be on the 2 top teams that go to this tournament, we'd have a chance, wouldn't we? So I feel like that's a part people are looking past. Like, it's not like all these squads are just shit. Like, they make it sound like we have 8 teams that all have all the... No, we have like 3 or 4 teams. By the way, this is even where I don't even put that much on MKOI, Yamato. MKOI had no business even being at this tournament. And not only are they here, they're the champions. I've got to just give it up to MKOI for that one. And you even did do a good job against BLG. So I don't put much of the blame on MKOI for the region in that sense. In a sane world, Yamato, they'd be your 2nd or 3rd seed. They should have been 1st anyway. That's on fucking G2 and Karmine Corp and Fnatic. But I do look, and if I look at this one, look, I'm going to blame G2 because they played crap and didn't do anything. But I also just think, mate, I'll start off by blaming, where were you, Karmine Corp? Where were you? Where were you with all those? By the way, I'm with you. I think that team fighting, you could have fucking done work against the BLG at this tournament. I'd have loved to see that game. Same with fucking Fnatic. I think about how you guys accelerate early on. Could you play a CF4 series against T1? You could actually win some of these games if you got going, mate. If you got cracking early on and you got the lead over Order and people like that, then it takes carry a miracle plays to it. So I'm not as down on the region, actually, Yamato. I just hope potentially the teams get their shit together for summer and let's just send the proper 3 teams to fucking Worlds. If we send the right 3 teams, this could all just work out, mate. This could all be okay, I think. Where are you at on that one?
No, I made a similar point because as a point of comparison, KC and Koi have leveled up so much in comparison to last year. So these 2 teams have showcased, like, I think when you elevate players that other teams don't know how to use or don't even know exists, like, that's massive. Like you can't ask for more. KC brought up Kalist, Vladi. They revived Kana's career, and Kana is just the best top lane in the league now. Like, they have done their part, I think, for the region. I think Koi the same way. They brought in Jojo Pune. They commit to, of course, the Super Alvaro Mirwin identity too with Elioya, and these are players that wasn't of big interest to the other teams, and they have figured out their own way and their own approach. I think the main point of criticism, if anything, like, I think looking at the other teams, it's like I can't fault an SK for being a low budget team and they're just getting the top ERL prospects and then trying to sell them further, like bringing over Isma, selling him, and then Bukada, and then selling Bukada to BDS. It's like they're just doing their thing. We have teams like these in most franchise leagues in traditional sports too, so that's like okay. But I'm super happy that Rogue is out. Like, that's a big plus for the league, because that was just like a dark hole of like signing Malrang out of nowhere when he has had a horrible year in Brazil. Removing that is super good. And also, I think if the main point of criticism is anything, is just G2 letting go of Mickey. This is something that you would just never live down, because it happened now multiple times. And it's like, I know the gist of the inside story, but there's like there's embargo on it for another maybe 2 years. So I'm hoping that it comes out at some point, because that would be spicy. But I think the news cycle just goes too fast that people are gonna forget.
No, G2, a bit like EG, are one of those orgs that just NDA the fuck out of all the players, and so essentially no one is going to say anything. Like, unless here's the thing. Unless it was like you had an idiot like Adam he might just go on a street. But the point is, they don't tend to recruit the Adams of the world, you notice. So, but yeah, the problem with that one is you won't hear the real Mickey X story for a few years, guys. But trust me, it is a good one. Just you might not give a fucking 2 years. But basically, just what I was also getting at here, you might was this. I get why we can't actually treat what I'm about to say as reality, because in doing so, it sort of exposes that like regions are nonsense, you might. It's just about how good your team is and whether you have a chance at the international. The problem is Riot's approach is what what you would call a very sort of like utopian, I'd even say like humanitarian vision of the world. Their vision of the world is like fucking Field of Dreams, mate. It's like, if you build it, they will come. So they believe if you build regions that are their own self-sustaining region with competition and a turnover of teams and quality and tournament, they believe eventually, cargo cut thinking here, something, question mark, we're all Korea now. Hey, we've all got the LCK, brilliant. There's the LCK in Europe, there's the LCK in America, there's the LCK in China, brilliant. Yeah, it's awesome. But meanwhile, it doesn't matter how many years, it doesn't matter how many, it still ends up being that China and Korea are the best, and the West can only have a super team, essentially. Because that's the part I'm sick and tired of. It's like, that's all you get. Like NRG, remember, beat G2. That was good. They did nothing against the Asian teams. Like, because that team was all like semi-rejects from the good teams in fucking LCS, mate. That was some mighty dog shit that they even got to Worlds. Then you go and look at Team Liquid. Team Liquid had really good macro and didn't have the firepower to beat the Asian teams and the big BO fans as well. They didn't do it. That's why they never actually got to do it. Even flawed G2 was better than them against the Asian teams. Then you go to FlyQuest. Hey, you know what? They came really close. And even they still haven't done it. We're still waiting for them to get this massive big win. That's what they've got, a lot of like close game and good games. And we showed a great game one or a good game. But where's the win? Where's the win? And so my problem is this, Yamato. And in your position, you've been on the opposite side from me on this many times. Because if you're a coach, you can't go to your own players. Now, guys, none of you are generational talents like Caps and MKX, so you're obviously not going to be able to win here. Don't even believe it's possible. In fact, you know what? It doesn't even matter what I say to you in this speech. Now, I could give you all the X's and O's you want. The problem is some motherfucker might just go Neo in the Matrix and just beat you anyway. So anyway, good luck. Try not to make yourself look like shit and don't shit your pants. Anyway, see you after the game. Like, no, you have to always believe, guys, it's just a get whip. We put our trousers on the same way they do, one leg after another. We load up the same champion, LeBlanc. It's got the same abilities when you have it as when he has it. So then you go in there, you confident, you believe you can go head to head with him. Who the fuck's he anyway? What, just some top player? He's not even ready for you. Obviously, you all do that. But the real problem is, Yamato, if I did the real question of how to make a Western team, which is this, gun to your head, you lose if they don't win this series against BLG. You would construct a very different squad than MKOI. You would construct a very different squad than G2. And listen, I don't know what you'd do. You might have to take some gambles, but I'll tell you what, you would have some fucking hyper-powered squad. You'd have some Avengers of EU at that point in time. So that's why, to me, when they say GMing, what they really mean, I think, is this, Yamato. I'll make it a better conversation. I think they mean that if you're Fnatic and G2, because you have this extra advantage of your Fnatic and G2, they think you should have super teams. I think that's what they mean. They mean even if you change a player, so you can send out Yike, but then in their world, I guess you should be getting El Yoyo, or you should have fucking Razork, or same, if you're sending out Mickey X, okay, that's fine, but you better have Alvaro coming in there. You better have some fucking stud player coming in to take that spot. I think that's what people really mean. It's like, because if you do want to beat the Asians, we're just with CF4. CF4 didn't just do it by being great at playing the game and practice. They have people like Honkyu who are like actual, like, holy fuck, where did he come from? Like, that's a play you could believe could actually go head to head with the fakers of the world. So I do think you have to stack some giga talents, bro. It can't just be like a good team. Come on.
I think I would add though that I think it's important to be able to sell some kind of a vision, because at the end of the day, I think if the fan base believes that there's a chance of winning, that's already so much better than what G2 did. And I think if there's teams to criticize, because I hate when it's vague. I think you can be like very direct in this, because Fnatic definitely is just a failure if after Spring Split they are changing players when they are working with data that they've had now for so many years. It's like you didn't get anything new out of Spring. You were just kind of hoping that Upset and Mickey would fix things for you, but they didn't have any new data. They're like, if they started the year with maybe bringing in some kind of a new prospect in mid lane, or made a big play for a mid laner on one of the mid-table teams, like the Jackies, for example, maybe Fnatic's year would have just looked completely different. And I think if I compare that to a FlyQuest, like FlyQuest took very bold decisions along the way, and they managed to, pick up the scraps that were left behind. Like Bwipo was not on the team for a year, and they brought him in. And they had like the whole Prince year before that just collapsed with a pretty, on paper, good roster that just didn't work out in the end. And then they brought in Bwipo. Inspired was also someone, like we heard a story again of how he went to the airport and was about to fly in to play for Vitality, but then in the end, Vitality chose to play with Douglas. Like that's like a butterfly effect.
That hurts a bit, Yamato. Knowing he could be in LEC right now. That does sting a little bit, doesn't it?
That's a big painful one. And then mid-season, they just decide to go for Quad, who they had on their academy team, just ready to go, benching Jensen. On paper, that's like a risk that
it's a gamble,
that's
for sure.
big gamble. Like you went, you made MSI, you got second place, and then they just took this risk with Quad. And then they also, on top of that, took Mithy from C9 and paired them together with Busio. It's like they just had a very good vision for talent, and they have a very good spread of like rookies coming up, finding Mausu as well, and then of course with legendary players in Inspired and Whipple. And I think those steps along the way, it's like always adjusting your vision and never really, being, let's say, satisfied. I think this is super big for me. I think that's a big plus, and I think I would love to see more of that. Because in the end, Fnatic just anchored themselves to two players that didn't work out. Sure, they got some second places, but albeit during years where I can say that the LEC was pretty damn weak. It's like we were hyped about the LEC this year because of the parity and Casey and Koi being better. But last year, it's like we had like a BDS that could maybe take a game of G2, but they didn't have the force to ever finish a series. Never ever. Like that was never believable. And Fnatic was the second best team in the league, and they were just as disappointing as G2 was at this event. And I think while so back to my initial points, like I don't like being vague. I think you can point to specific things. It's like G2 they go and Mickey. I think that we called that months and months ago. It seems like G2 were the only ones that couldn't foresee that this would be painful for them, especially when it comes to internationals. Fnatic is a shit show. Rogue being out is a good one. And then I think with these teams getting better and figuring their shit out better, I think there's potential to make the region as a whole a little bit better, because that's where you can pinpoint maybe poor GMing.
Thing is, Yamato, in a way, what we're saying is it's not just about how much is in your wallet. It's about what you do with what's in your wallet in many ways.
That is very true. That's exactly what we're saying, because we need to transition somehow to our sponsor, which is the Ridge Wallet. The Ridge Wallet, I am so impressed with how small it is. It's like I like gadgets. I like gadgets and I like good design. You can see good design from miles away because you just look at it, and it's in terms of how the corners are, in terms of how it's shaped, and in terms of how sleek it is, it's just perfect. I have this matte design, this carbon fiber thing here that is very durable. There's so many designs you can make it according to, of course, your own liking, because that's just available. I'm waiting right now for my tag. I think it's called RFID tag, that just in case I lose it, I can just track it. Very easy. That to me is a blessing.
The AirTag type thing, right? Okay, I see.
Because I've lost my wallet so many times, and I also have the keychain now too, which is super cool because I don't jiggle. I don't do that noise. When I'm walking, because I have neighbors. Like for some reason, I have pretty shabby construction in my house, and my neighbors, they hear everything. Doors that are out to the hallway. They are simply too thin. So I have this older lady, my neighbor, and she always gets angry when I walk in the night, because I stream to 3 a.m. and then I take out the trash, and then she hears my keys, and she would always leave me angry messages at 5 a.m. It's like, you need to be quiet. I can hear your keys. I'm like, what the hell? You can hear my keys because Spider-Woman is living here, but this has solved my issue. I really like it because it's kind of, I like the cool design. You just flip out the keys. Doesn't make any noise. Doesn't jiggle. I think that's really cool. And in terms of how you can also pull out the key cards, is also quite sleek. I'm worried about doxing my bank account.
Just be careful of that.
I'm not gonna show it. You can fit in 12 cards, which was surprising to me. I kind of stress tested it because I didn't believe it at the time, but I could fit in 12 cards.
You can though. No, the thing is, the fabric does stretch. I know what you meant, by the way, as well. I do the same thing. Wait, say one of your cards is like one that you used to get on the underground or the train or boss or something. What you do is you don't have to take it all the way out. You just push the little indent and then it pops out and you just scan it like that and you write on the train. Yeah, it's brilliant.
And I mentioned RFID, but it was the AirTag that I mentioned. But RFID is a thing where people can like take your cash off of
Yes.
the like the touch transfer
Yep.
thing. I have irrational fears, but I think this fear is very, very rational because I've seen TikToks of people like
there's some,
someone's
for
on their
sure.
phone on the train and then someone just like comes by and scans because usually we have our Google Pay or Apple Pay just good ready to go. Or our
Yep.
cards are just
Yep.
there ready to swipe. That has been a fear of mine, knowing that this block stat is super, super cool. Just keeping us safe from any digital pickpockets. 100,000 5-star reviews. If for some reason you don't like it, you know, there's free shipping, 99-day risk-free trial, and also lifetime warranty. Anytime anyone puts a lifetime warranty on a product, I always think they're crazy. But with this, they're not crazy at all. So in my mind, I don't know what you're waiting for. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off at Ridge by using code SI at checkout. Just head to ridge.com and use code SI and you're all set. After your purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support the Summoning Insight, the Last Free Nation, us, the beautiful faces you see on screen, and let them know that we sent you. Ridge Wallet, keeping us, keep our money safe. You know, we work hard for that money. You know, it's important.
Yeah, the only people who'd be crazy are people who don't take advantage of this deal. Disclaimer, I am not a medical doctor in any way or psychologist. But okay, now let's get on to the next part. So actually, I'll tell you who I want to talk about now, Yamato, is if we're speaking about like narratives coming into this tournament, I'll tell you one narrative that I hope is already dead. I hope this narrative is not going to rise up again. And I hope everyone who spread it, please just fucking think before you say these things. So anyone's legend came to this tournament, Yamato, 2-time finalists to the LPL in a row and reigning champions. And by the way, looked awesome with the way they beat BLG in that final. They come into the event and there was people acting like FlyQuest was going to beat this squad. Like this squad, you know, they're going to be like underwhelmed. And I heard it everywhere, bro. It's the curse of top esports. Every fucking idiot was like, you can tell Shanks is just like the next cream, isn't he? And I did a whole thing on this, like a Thorin vs Reddit episode about this. About like, why though? He's a totally different human being that doesn't have vaguely the same champion pool, doesn't have vaguely the same story. He's just another Chinese player. Like your logic goes, anyone who's a really good Chinese player, I haven't heard of in mid lane, is just going to be cream and just shit the bed for something. It's like, what? And so I don't even get where that came from. Because I think if you look at this performance so far, listen, they did what they needed to against FlyQuest. Okay, FlyQuest got one really good game. By the way, in every series, there's going to be the one whip or pop-off game. You always guaranteed it. Now, listen, they don't mention there's always the in-game coming too, but that's just part and parcel. We all know what the ups and downs. But I think the GenG series, people in history are going to look back at that, mate, and that is going to look a lot better than people realize. Bro, that was legit as fuck. Tarzan, again, he chokes he didn't choke in 2 of those games, mate. 2 of those games, he did exactly what you wanted to see. Here's the thing. I'm just going to say it right now, Yamato. I don't think anyone can beat GenG at this tournament. I fully expect them to go through the upper bracket final and just win the whole tournament. And at best, if you can get them to a game 5, hey, you know what? I'm already going to give you a lot of props. I don't think anyone's beating this team. Spoiler, when we get to it later, I think they're going to handle T1. I think they're going to beat whoever the fuck they play in the final. And I think at the end, it's going to be a bit like last year's MSI. So I actually give Anyone's Legend a lot of props for this, mate. Like, I also think they look on cue. We've said earlier, yeah, okay, CFO is great. I think AL's on cue to do the fucking low bracket run, mate. What do you think of this team? I think they've generally shown what I wanted to see. They've shown me a good level.
I've been super happy with Anyone's Legend. I think just Shanks as a standout. I think he's just the best performing mid laner at this tournament, competing with Hongkyu.
Yeah.
It's just competing with Hongkyu out
people
of all
don't know.
people.
Chovy's been a little bit quiet. He actually hasn't needed to go fucking crazy. You're right.
Because in that series, like AL showed what we've seen all year long. So I'm super happy. I think that Game 5 draft, you know, with the Gragas and the Shen support and the Scanner, I thought that was a bit iffy. But I think that's a part of the game. That's a part of the skill with it. The same way I mentioned, like CFO kind of dropped the ball. But that's like you're very limited there, and you kind of throw a Hail Mary and you hope that it lands. But GenG was just very clever with the Sejuani Camille lock-in particular against someone like, of course, Flandre, because he's a very peculiar player. But I think Shanks is popping off completely. I think Hope had brilliant moments too. That Kaiser game looked wonderful. Like, I think that game 1 really showcased the best version of what I would consider like an LPL style, like a heavy engaged composition that wants to skirmish you, and they caught off GenG off guard. Like, the LPL it's like if you make it to the top, you are very capable of taking 2v2s, 3v3s on demand, and you are always on guard and always finding opportunities. And that game one concluded after there was a 3-for-3 fight on the grubs, and then they opened on mid lane again, and then instantly Zenza engaged again, and then he was like, oh shit, everyone's here, and then Canyon fell, and then 5-3 gold lead meant the game is going to be finished. And I liked how honest it was. It kind of gave me flashbacks to what Billy versus T1 was at the World Finals, where if one team has a lead, that's it. Both teams are good enough to understand what they need to do in order to claw it back, and the other team who's ahead knows how to just wrap it up and finish it. I thought the level here was probably like the highest level we've seen out of any best of five in Fearless in this year.
Yeah, it was the best this year. Totally fair.
For sure, yeah.
I mean, as pointed out, yeah, maybe the game 5 was a bit iffy, but listen, I want Tabe to cook in the fucking Fearless draft. That is one of the upsides for anyone's legend. By the way, 2 things to say on that. One, another thing is, it wasn't just, again, I pointed this out on the last episode, but you can have 5-game series where it's like the underdog barely wins their 2 games, and then the big dog just shits all over them on 2, and then the 5th game's just a clap. Like, that's one where it's like, it looks on paper, it's close, but it's not. Bro, you go look at game 3, anyone said you could have won that one too. Like, they actually could for real have won this series. And then secondly, look, I like LS. You know this is going to be good if I have to fucking say that as my disclaimer. Me standing up, Norman Rockwell painting. I like LS. Now I sit back down. But I'll tell you what, he was fucking doing his usual LS thing, whiling on Twitter. Because, bro, in the FlyQuest series, remember, FlyQuest may as well be his fucking, like, adopted children. Half of them are the people who've been on his stream their whole careers. Like, people aren't playing fucking Ivan. Support? What are they doing, the idiots? Doing all that fucking smarmy LS shit, which I always did tell Fudge, that works great, mate, as long as you're dope at the game. When you're shit at the game, you just sound like an idiot doing that. Because the LS doesn't have to play the game. He gets to just live in the ivory tower and be a theoretician, doesn't he? He doesn't ever have to actually test his theories out. Bro, just riddle this to me. If you all love FlyQuest, you think FlyQuest are so dope and they draft so well. By your own logic, you all told me that Anyone's Legend did a total turbo int draft and then giga shit down FlyQuest's throat in the game. You tell me how that works. So are they just like 5 times better than FlyQuest by your logic? How did the other team win the draft and then get completely stomped to oblivion? How do you rationalize that one? Because I actually do think, mate, this is one of the rare areas where LS will just sometimes while a little bit too much. Bro, if you want to tell me CV Max fucked up in draft, you know what? I'm almost certain you're probably right. That's sort of what he does. He breathes air, he finds super sick young players, and then he hits the shot at the draft. I know that, you know that. If you want to tell me a night team, bizarrely, drafted some shit on mid lane that isn't even mobile and made him like play supportive to the rest of the team, even though he's like probably the best carry in the world. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know why they keep doing that. I don't know why he opts into it. I'm with you on all this. But if you want to sit there and tell me that Tabe is a moron who doesn't know what he's doing in the draft in a BO5 series on LAN, child, please. Could you get a bucket of water, splash it on your face, and realise maybe he's seeing something different in the scrim environment from what you are in your perspective on all of League. Maybe when he's scrimming, literally, I'm going to go ahead and guess fucking T1 and all those other people on the inside of the bracket, I'm going to guess he's seeing things in those scrims that mean there's a logic to why he picked those. He didn't just trip, he didn't hit shuffle and then that was the draft that came out, is it? Like, he obviously had a logic as to why he picked them. And he did win the series. He's been in position now to win all these series. So what do you think on this whole angle? Because people always do it against the LPL teams, I notice. People always think LPL drafts incorrectly and LCK drafts correctly. What do you think of the kind of meta read for this tournament?
I think there's definitely some champions that are overpicked due to comfort. Like you can see, like for example, Kalista is something that we see often, but she got nerfed. Nico got nerfed. Everything connected to her got nerfed. There's a misunderstanding about how to use TF, because I'm very certain that Twisted Fate in scrims is just getting kills he shouldn't get, and he's just like getting ahead because scrims are probably very, very like bloody, because often at MSI the trend is always that the Eastern teams, when they scrim cross region, they just kind of they just treat it almost as solo queue, because they want to fish information from you and push you. That's why it's like all the Western team is like, they're just fighting. It's like they're just fighting us, and we almost beat them. They're not playing any macros. Like, yeah, bro, they are fishing and they're treating you as solo queue. That's what's happening real time. because the NA solo queue is just not the best. I
mean,
think
you have to remember for the Western team, their scrim block is like the world's final for them. Like, we're almost won the third game, guy. Like, just living in the dream world the whole time. I love it.
Yeah, but I sympathize with it. I know how it feels. It's like winning those scrim teams is a rush.
Of course, yeah.
No, but as a continuation on the meta topic, as I think I read some of the LS takes, like people write to me on Twitch. I feel like the main thing, because they had this discussion between him and Dom as well, where he just called him not an innovator, but I think something that is always like left behind in these conversations of nuance because of Twitter is like it almost seems as the view of champions is like, how will they operate in a team fight in even conditions, but there is never a discussion about how strong the 2v2 is, how they can suffocate you on side, how will they leverage grubs. If they get grubs, will they able to just will the cross map just lose against you because you can't do the game, play the game where you're trading permanently because the enemy has grubs. There are ways to suffocate a composition that is going to be very strong in the 5v5s. Lane matchups matter, 2v2s matter, 3v3s matchup matters, and the way you accelerate the game happens through those conditions. Like if I'm picking Rise, it's not because I think it's going to be the best team fighter ever. It's like Rise gets outranged by a lot of stuff. Mages win against Rise. I'm picking Rise because I know on side I'm going to be the strongest person on the block. I am going to be able to synergize with a jungler, have prior for him when he wants to invade the chickens, and there are things that connect to the overall identity of the game that goes past what the 5v5 is and also what the matchups are. And I feel like that's always missed because I think AL is aware of this, Tab is aware of this. It's like, oh, I know that we can create better positions at the objective by being stronger on side. And this is a very crucial detail. Being first on objective is not you like showing up on time. It's not a meeting that you have booked. It's about creating conditions on the other side of the map that forces the enemy to defend. And if they're defending, then you can take the space because it's not like, oh, Drake is spawning in 1 minute.
Sure.
It's like you're going to bleed if the team plays correctly around side and their advantages. Because no 5v5 starts fair. It just isn't the case. And I think this is always like lost in the nuance of conversation in terms of what champions can and cannot do.
By the way, I love the actual conversation. I also do think the mistake people always make is they also take all the biases we have from watching regional play, where obviously it's not the same level of competition and same amount of people competing, and we take those into international play. Whereas I always feel like surely the one lesson we've all learned from both T1 winning worlds and from the LPL bombing worlds a million times is you have to almost arrive at the international and to some degree forget about what you know about that meta before and almost like experience the meta for the first time and ask things like, why do these pieces go together this way? Or why did I think this was super strong in my region, but actually it's shit when you play it against, say, the LCK, for example? Or because if anything, I always think the problem with the old angle of like the LPL just is stubborn and LCK adapts is like, LPL and LCK can both be shit in week one. And and the joke of the T1 examples is I never even thought they did adapt. I thought it was the opposite of adapting. I thought they just went to what worked for them, which is the opposite of adapting, Yamato. Adapting is like what works for everyone, right? I'm going to change to that. What LCK does, I think T1 especially, they're just really cynical with their band-aids, mate. They're just like, right, this shit doesn't work. But we tried it, probably worked in scrims, but didn't work in these games. You know what? Retreat to the position that we can hold because we know that Jinx works on fucking Gumayushi. You know what? Yeah, maybe we'll put a Poppy on Kerry, I don't know. Who gives a fuck about what's strong? These champions, when you give them to these players, are fucking tools that they can use. Like, that makes sense at that point in time. To me, this is like you're giving a guy who uses a fucking knife, like a magnifying glass. Yeah, it might be brilliant if he's fucking Sherlock Holmes. If he's going around trying to hit people with magnifying glass, probably not going to get much out of that analogy, is he? So I don't know, mate. I think in general it's actually been quite an interesting read overall from a lot of the teams. I don't feel like many teams have had a great read. In fact, actually that's one area I might even give props to the CFOs of the world. They also look like they picked for themselves quite well. And with you, by the way, the one angle on the CFO that is still mad is like, why on earth were they messing with the 6-man roster? Like, bro, you've got the 5-man roster. You don't need the 6th man. Like, he's not necessary, mate. Just pop this 5 in. Because every time that fucker comes in, he loses the game. Like, why are we doing it? You'll probably win these series if you just play the same 5s. I don't get it, mate. I do not get it. It's fucking weird to me.
Oh, just Fearless makes it all so interesting, right?
Oh, it does,
like,
yeah.
Fearless is definitely like a new challenge altogether, and we are really really past the era of like teams creating masterpieces as a group. Like, oh, they are the masters of this style, and they're gonna win the tournament playing this style over and over again. It's like you need to have range, which allows for like individual players to really showcase how good they can be. I just wanted to highlight the last thing on AL GenG is like, for me so far, I think Keen is the MVP of this tournament.
I was going to say this, bro, mate. You remember what it was like when he was on KT? When he was on KT, this guy used to choke in playoffs and big internationals. Like, not super hard, but he never gave you that like MVP level performance he had in the regular split. That series, he saved them, bro. He was the most reliable player in the server over fucking Chovy, everyone. This guy was the shit. That was really next level series, wasn't it?
It's just the list of champions that he ended with is like Camille, Gwen, and then I'm forgetting the last one, Ambessa. That is a very good list. That's a super good list. And I always saw Keen as the guy who could play everything and would be stable and everything, very impactful and everything. But this is like this was a series where it's like Zeus and Bin territory of like absolutely their best. Like this could be one of their best series too. So Keen for me. MVP of this tournament. I thought even in the series against G2, he was just so damn good. I think Keen is just such a solid player and comes back to the thing that we always bring up, or I have brought up a couple of times, is just that this topside, Canyon, Chovy, Keen, is for me just continuing building arguments as to why this is the best topside of all time. There's some that can compete there, like a Nuguri, Nuguri. Damwon with Showmaker Canyon, but they had that stint, for a very short amount of time before Nuguri left and so forth. And there's like spottiness and everything. But here, these guys have played together for a long time and have so much volume of just being insane. So it just looks impossible to beat these three guys.
Also, notice the winner in that conversation is just Canyon, because he's going, well, you pick which the greatest topside. Was it my topside on Damwon, or did you prefer my topside? You know what? Tell you what, would be impolite for me to give my opinion. I'll just sit back, smoking a fuck off cigar, drinking Dom Perignon. You guys decide. This guy's fucking too swagged out. He's too good, mate. He's actually too good. You can't beat this fucker. It's too good.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you, though. I do think, actually, for real, the real topic on that one is this. If you are Chovy, you better, after that game, have turned around backstage and given Keen a massive fucking big wet kiss on the fucking lips. Because I'll tell you what, even though you didn't play like shit, you just had a kind of an average series for you, you would have gotten flamed to fuck if you'd have lost that series to anyone's legend. Like, that was there, mate. That was on the table for that to happen. And again, much as the example involved the Shankses of the world, aside from Knight, you don't really get, like, Chinese mid laners that people think have a chance against the top. If Chovy had lost to Shanks, who people were trying to make Cream 2.0, it wouldn't have been, wow, Shanks is awesome. It would have been, say, Choky is, all that shit. I can get me the fuck out. I get triggered right even to hear that nickname. It's so bad, isn't it? Choky. That's so garbage, isn't it? It's so trash, bro. But, tell you what, though, even though Chovy doesn't always carry every day, he could carry some everyday earbuds by Raycon. And if he did, by the way, it looks like he might need him, because it looked to me like he was playing some fucking DRX Chovy where he's just like me in solo queue, like, right, mute all my teammates, drum and bass music on. It's a 1v9 game. I don't give a fuck about them. Lol, what, your team fighting? That's going to be hard because I'm side laning. Lol. Like, he was doing a bit more of that. But I tell you what, if he'd have had his Raycon everyday earbuds, then first of all, wouldn't matter that he might not be fully charged for this tournament. All he'd need is that little 10 minutes pre-game, and he could have got 90 minutes worth of charge. That's like 2.5 games nowadays in League of Legends. Also, as noise cancellation, already seemed like he was blocking out his teammates anyway. But this way, he could have blocked out all the unnecessary noise of all the fans online and people just saying nonsense. He could metaphorically have done that. You could literally block that noise out, unwanted noise in your environment, with Raycon everyday earbuds. Also, oftentimes you expect good audio equipment to be very expensive, don't you? You pay for what you get. I actually think they have nailed the tech in Raycon where they've got it to a really good level, but without making it so that you're having to buy some super expensive item. They've sort of min-maxed it perfectly well. You'd think the LSs of the world with their build gold efficiency, they'd love this. This would be one of the most gold efficient items around League of Legends, not in the game, but around it. That's right. I'm doing my own fucking shit now, LS. And if you pick any other earbuds than this, you're an idiot who just doesn't understand the meta that I'm creating around the game. There you go. That's how I'm doing it. So, and then also they have a 32-hour battery life. That's pretty fucking sick right there. They've got the multi-point connectivity. You can bear 2 devices at the same time. They've got fucking everything, boys. What more do you want? So go to buyraycon.com/LFN. You get 10% off Raycon's best-selling everyday earbuds, the ones I just showed you. Right now, Raycon is offering 15% off their best-selling everyday earbuds. Only it's on the screen, buyraycon.com/LFN. That's buyraycon.com/LFN. Right, let's get into it. So we haven't talked too much about certain other teams. I tried to keep it segmented. Let's do the T1 discussion now, mate. Because you know what? I said it earlier. People are going to think I'm going to hate on T1. No, I actually think CFO played really fucking well. I don't even think that was T1 being shit. Like I said, there were certain times, by the way, where T1 even did stuff that would just work against other teams. Like you split the enemy up, etc. CFO would then collapse into the one side where they had the numbers and actually do the fight. That was, to me, that's like, if you think of something like a game like a chess type game, that's like I'm making a strong move and you're making the correct counter move. Like that's just game on, right? Okay, let's keep playing it out. So the one thing I'll say for T1 is this. I do think they're gradually powering up. I haven't really seen them as being super peak in these early series. Certainly the fact that GenG's had a little bit of rough moments himself against Alien Legend makes me hyped for that upper bracket. Where is T1 at in the moment? Look, they are at the moment, Yamato, guaranteed top 3. But to be fair, they did also have that weird bracket where essentially it was them against BLG, and then whoever won that was getting top 3 anyway. So it was obviously number 1 seed from LPL, number 1 seed from LCK. We're on the same side, so we don't yet know if they really are the second best team in the tournament. But it's looking like they're going to be at worst third best. By the way, already that's a fairly successful run. Where is T1 at the moment? And do they have? Is there an extra gear we can hit where they could actually win the tournament? Is that on the table?
I think that would be. It's just based on opposition, knowing what AL brought to the table and also what GenG brought to the table. That already is a very tough task. Like beating GenG right now is so difficult to the point where losing against them is expected and it's not bad at all. On the topic of T1, I did feel like they started slow. I think especially Faker was such a different player against Knight in comparison to what he was against CFO, because he dropped that 1-8 death game on Rise where he was just dying to every gank possible. I thought that Honku just kept initiative. There was that Silas ROM he did in game 4 as well, where he just walked into bottom side to defend Rumble and then just overstayed and died, and then just was 30 CS behind against the Casio after Javan invested time into him. I thought there was a massive glow up, and I think the big thing for me is Owner and Keria have set a standard for themselves where I expect them to be playing at the level where for other players this is the best series of their life type shit.
Sure.
In that CFO series, even though Keria really ramped up in 4 and 5 and did a good job as things progressed, Owner was a little bit quiet by his standards. He played well, but he was quiet by his standards because I felt like Junjie was doing all the power moves. And then I compare that to the Bilibili series, where for me, Owner in that series was just the MVP because he just had such poise. Whenever I saw him on the screen, it just seemed like, oh, he is the man. Where whenever he walked into an objective, whether it was the Atakan or the Dragon or the Nash, he just had such dominance and such conviction in what he did, and at the same time a very insane level of execution. That is the best of Owner that you can get. And I did feel like that between those series, the ramp up towards Bilibili, I thought that Bilibili series was just straight up the best level of gameplay they have showcased all year long, because I think Bilibili played as they usually do. I think that dive play where they just commit 4v2 on top side where Elk just sent, I don't know what the fuck that was. That was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in a high-level game. That was mental. But Bilibili, they are not comfortable when the games are slowed down by the enemy. They're not comfortable at all when nothing is happening. when it comes to stacking objectives and not being skirmish heavy. This is not where Billy is comfortable at all. And T1 were just so good at understanding what ult CDs meant, what TP CDs meant, and were so coordinated around rallying around the same idea and at the same time being very snappy around their objective play, whether it was the preparation for a dragon and then snapping with the Rise ult towards the Nasher. I think that their space control, their team fighting, and their market is just in a place. I thought that in terms of control, this was a phenomenal series, and I think T1, they could cause upset wins. I think the AL versus T1 series is super interesting because even though AL has played 2 series well, there's still a question mark of his like dealing with T1 is always unique and different. GenG does look a little bit too far-fetched, even though GenG is flawed in some ways. I think that there's a slight inconsistency with Canyon, right, where sometimes he like overreaches and dies. I think sometimes the draft setups aren't the greatest. I think the main thing that makes it scary is something that we didn't mention, is just that Duro has looked so insane at this tournament. To the point where if you made like a tier list for who performed the best as support in this tournament, if someone told me Duro, I wouldn't think that would be too crazy. Like he was insanely good in the AL series, and I think that he outperformed Kael, and Kael is a great player. Like that was a very good series from Duro. So when everything else falls into place for GenG, where their weaknesses tend to begin to look as strengths, because weaknesses, it has to be said with the parentheses, little bunny ears, because we're just looking for something that is a flaw. It's like Ruler and Duro have had a pretty solid tournament so far, so it just seems so hard to beat GenG.
The big problem, I think, if you've been watching this tournament but you don't watch LCK, is if you did watch the G2 first game against GenG and you were like, oh my God, they're beatable. And then you watch the Anyone's Legend series and you're like, wow, Anyone's Legend is close. Bro, if Chovy actually turns up for a series, it's going to be night-night. Like, it's going to be fucking awful. Like, he's actually been chilling so far. He really hasn't had to be peak Chovy, which if people don't know, he was fucking mega in LCK. He was really good. Like, this guy, almost every team fight would just be smurfing. In fact, remember, that didn't even used to be his big strength back in the day, but he's even dope at that now. So he's actually been somewhat kind of quiet, and he's working his way into the tournament as well. That's why I actually do kind of low-key hope this upper bracket final is a banger. I hope it's like both GenG and T1 power up. They get ready. They've both been pushed in 5-game series. By the way, we've seen fuck tons of draft options. So there's loads of interesting work you can do there if you're Koma, if you're fucking Kim, etc. There's so many different angles. And presumably, since they were on opposite sides of the bracket, I'm going to assume they were scrimming each other the whole time until now. Like, it just makes sense they would be. It's also that whole like career first thing. Like, yeah, I would imagine these guys know each other super well. So this could essentially be, isn't this what we want? This could be like the fucking LCK final we weren't given. We could actually have it now. And by the way, either way, it's a brilliant story. If GenG wins, well, listen, that's fucking awesome for them, isn't it? If they want to like be the champions. Also, they didn't actually have to play T1 last MSI when they won it. If you're someone like Chovy, you want to have a chance to beat Faker every chance you can in a LAN BO5. Also, if T1 somehow won, the entire storyline of the tournament gets flipped on its head. Now maybe they can be the fucking MSI champions. By the way, imagine them winning MSI with fucking Thorin. That takes about 6 months of talk shows and throw them in the bin. Like, suddenly, and by the way, actually, again, Thorin actually been somewhat surprisingly decent at this tournament, mate. He really hasn't been a liability. Like, in fact, I have even seen a couple of games, especially against the lesser squads, where he just shit on them. Like, he's had some good games, mate.
Oh, T1, I think in like Doran in the CFO series was quite instrumental, like especially in that 5th game where he just slammed a solo kill into the Ornn, and you're like, oh, well, I guess the game is just over. Thank you, Doran. I think the series against Biddy, the game 3 was good on the Renekton, like the flank he did that just broke the game and just
that was huge.
Killed Knight. It was like,
yeah,
like Knight Soul just like.
People don't know that entire game, all the eggs were in that egg basket. He had to stay alive in all these fights, and that was huge. That was like some solo queue shit, mate. Just get that one guy. If we get that one guy, we win.
Yeah. It was a super good move. But the 2 games ahead of that, like the Yori game, the game, like. The farmed. He was getting a bit farmed and he was getting killed on side, but this was like the main thing that Billy had to offer. And I think at some point there was like solo kill angles that Doran had in game 3 against the Ambassa, but he just kind of didn't go for it because I think he just realized that I will win if I am stable. And then there was so much truth to that, because in the early game he died I think 4 times in the early game. Orn game he was getting caught left and right, but anytime
Oh mate, I just looked it
Billy,
up now. Yeah, that go in game 3, guys, to like 32 minutes, 40 seconds or something. Basically, Thorin has like every fucking Renekton's dream flank where he just gets right onto like 3 of them and just catch them in the river. It's pretty gnarly actually. I forgot how good this was, mate. It was a bagger.
It's just like how he plays with Fog of War as like around the cliff and just times it perfectly when all of Billy cross the bush. It's a nasty one. It's like Doran is showing up with some money moves. I think the coolest thing about Doran is I think that he has expanded his skill set.
Yeah.
I think always he was very good at the rumble and the tanks and playing in isolation. This was a skill. He managed to do so against some of the best teams. But when he had gold and had advantages, and he had to like overperform in the context of what his champion needed to do in the game for them to win, he kind of dropped the ball. But now I think the How Alive series was a big one where he was just the MVP of the playoff run, and also like this Renekton moment where he is capable of, setting up for the game-winning play. I think this is a massive step up for Doran, who already has, I don't want to do the T1 fan thing where people say it's like, oh, they are finally unlocked Doran and he good ever in his career. It's like, no, this is a very decorated player that has unlocked an additional layer to his game.
No, I always find that gross, mate. They make him sound like he's just actually shit. Like, put it this way. They make him sound like he's pure shit, mate. Like he was really good. Like he won some, but he was never good. It's like, what are you talking about? Like his real problem was he was just like on the border between very good and elite. And the problem is, if you play top lane, the longest lane in the game, the guy who's elite gets you eventually. The bins of the world get you. When Zeus finally doesn't choke, he's going to fucking smoke you, mate. Yeah, that's the big problem, is he would go against like the giga fucking carry players and the shy, and then they could just get his ass. Yeah, it's true. But no, what they're underestimating is the flaw of his game was way better than they're talking about. Like, there's a reason he was in a million domestic finals, mate, and has been a champion many times over. Remember, he could have been a champion again this split for all we know. There was no final. We just had that weird fucking upper bracket into a gauntlet into you just get to come to this tournament for whatever fucking reason. Oh yeah, another angle I've got for you is this. If we're going to preview the GenG T1 series, I actually do think we were just talking about GenG might have the best topside ever. Bro, the main problem for T1 is their solo laners. Look, they are trying to take Doran and Faker and run them into peak Keen and potentially peak Chovy if he turns up. Like, that's going to be a hard ask. Because it's the thing. I do think the actual player who's probably been the best the whole split for T1 is probably Order. Order's fucking mega nowadays, mate. Like, I think this is the best year League of Legends I've seen him play. I did think there was times before where I thought, like, are you sort of just like Faker's pet? Does he just tell you when they come, I don't know when I can't tell if you're making this decision or not. When you had Zeus as well, listen, you had two fucking, like, you had an amazing top laner and then like a pretty good mid laner. Now you've got much weaker laners, but I think you've been fucking sick. But I'll tell you what, you're playing the GOAT, you're playing Canyon. So I think that's the thing for me. Bot lane, we can have all sorts of discussions about, but fuck, the top side, T1's got the work cut out for them, mate. And I'll tell you what I really do hope for. I hope this is a series that goes to 4 or 5 games, because I want to see what the fuck are they going to pull out in a game 4, game 5. Because there's no, like, bait at that point. At that point, you're just putting your best draft together, Jamar. You're just trying to win that fucking... You're playing it like it's the final. You're just trying to win this fucking game. So I want to see, what does, like, a T1 go to if they're down 1-2? What does Faker take? Does he really go for a silence there? Does he go for some, like, Orianna safe shit? These are the questions I think are really exciting for this series. Because this series on paper, obviously, it's one of the series everyone wants to see. We were robbed it in that LCK playoffs.
And I just want to really, like, I think you hit the nail on the head in the fact that these teams, they know each other so intimately. Like that's going to also create a new dynamic in terms of what they ban or what they choose to open, because these best of 5, especially in fields, require so much planning in terms of which directions you want to go in. So that's going to be intriguing too, because they are working with so much more information and they finally get to play each other. It's like the last time we saw, it was a close 2-0 because T1 had like winning positions against GenG in the game, but they didn't manage to like win in the clutch, which is crazy to think about when it comes to T1. But maybe the international and them, of course, having, I think, a little bit more of a ramp up now and playing some of their best League of Legends of the year. Maybe this is just the perfect time to face GenG, but I think it just comes down to it's like if Chovy it's like Chovy still, even though Honkyu and Shanks have had like one of the best just showings ever. It's like Chovy has still been like third as a mid laner. He's been solid. He's been still like he's great. He's not Chovy from the LCK. So even in a world where he plays good, his good is most people's best. I really like the tweet you did in reference to Magnus Carlsen. The quote tweet when like the Magnus Carlsen said, "I might be game B." Somebody has some exceptional game. I think that fits so perfect for Chovy.
Yeah. No, because it's like, especially if you know Chovy's career, there were times in his career, the dodgy, like the DRX and the HLE, where he basically did have to be the best player in the server every game or you couldn't win. That's not the case with this GenG, bro. Like, they have power elsewhere. So that's why in some ways it's scarier for the other teams. It's like, mate, GenG still wins when Chovy doesn't play his peak game. What happens when he actually turns up and does the shit we've seen him do before? Like, it's going to be really fucking hard. And also, by the way, what an amazing cushion for Chovy to know that the game isn't over if he just has a bad game or just is just good in the game. Because how were you? Yeah, it's not like he's been inting. He just hasn't had those big super carry games or the ones where it's like, holy fuck, you can't give him that in the draft. He hasn't had those games yet. He's more just had good games. And if you took his nameplate off, no one would even flame him. It's been totally fine. What about then in the lower bracket? One of the matches we haven't discussed is BLG now plays FlyQuest. Now here's the thing, Yamato. I do think everyone who isn't Asian, I'm going to take BLG to beat them. I think you've seen in this tournament, people like Knight, people like Bin, they still have fucking crazy hands, bro. You can still catch them hands no matter what. It doesn't matter if you outdraft them, if you outmacro them, they can still just get you in that team fight and do some miracle shit, which will always be the edge the super elite Asian players have. But obviously, FlyQuest, justifiably, is the best Western team. They have had, Inspired shown it again and again. He's got chances in these games against people. Listen, I think Beishwan, I don't think it's even controversial. I think Beishwan's a much worse jungler than fucking Inspired. I think Inspired's a master compared to him. Are you anticipating, is there upset potential for FlyQuest, do you believe?
I think the main thing is, I think Bilibili, it's too easy to describe them as a team. I think that's their biggest flaw. I think individually, Bilibili should be able to destroy Fly if they have the chances to do so. But I do think that Fly is the type of team that could kind of mold themselves against Bilibili's weaknesses and strengths. I think Bilibili, if they create circumstances, for example, in this T1 series, Bin played the 3 champions that I hate them the most on. When Sion being the least. Fucking Ambessa, Rumble, Sion. That's what my boy Bin played. It's like, this is not you, Bin.
Bin is the number one player where I do just think, bro, why did your career have to overlap with Fearless? If it didn't, you were the GOAT. You were safe. But Fearless is exposing you like a motherfucker this year, innit? It's looking bad, Yamato. It's looking bad, bro.
It's looking so atrocious. I think Knight as well, for me, Knight has, especially in that T1 series, I thought Knight had a Caps-esque experience where I think the games just look so damn lonely for him. Yeah. But I think against Quad, I don't think Quad has had a great tournament. I thought Quad is good on Orianna, good on Rise, but other than that, especially that G2 kind of got carried, I think, by the circumstance and his teammates. I think individually Bilibili should be better. I think it's a big entry point because even Masu and Busio, I do think that they are fantastic players, but they have had moments that looked very ugly. They've been quite inconsistent. There's moments where Masu overstepped and got caught on the Varus or the Senna and gave chances to the enemy. There were 2v2 situations that were absurd, like that Ziggs opener there against anyone's legend. Yeah. That's tough to forget. There's inconsistencies that Bilibili will just hammer home on so hard. Unless Bilibili after that T1 loss just completely I need to always entertain that because I didn't entertain it after Hawa Life. It just got cooked by GenG in the reverse sweep, and I didn't expect them to be the team that collapses. But now, everything's off the table because T1 is the boogeyman of Bilibili. But I do think on paper Bilibili should be better. I could see a world where they maybe drop 2 games, but I think that Bilibili is a team that should win this one. They should be the favorite. FlyQuest, if they can mold themselves and they can play long, drawn-out games and they aren't rushing to take every Drake. Maybe they open the game by taking early Drake at 5 minutes just to get breathing time, and they view the game through the lens of bigger time spans and they don't take every invitation to skirmish. I do think that they can do well. But if they do, I think that this is where they will just lose out against Bilibili completely. I think the skirmishing, they need to avoid that at all costs and draft in ways that make them spike at 1 item, 2 items, or just draft way stronger early games that allow them to take initiative by virtue of just champions being stronger. But if you skirmish against these guys, you're going to lose. But I believe in Nuktak and Mithi. If they might be able to piece something together, I think they can break down Bilibili's strengths, and there is upset potential, I would say.
My problem with this FlyQuest run goes like this. If they just lose to BLG here, what was all the crowing about? Shout fiddlesticks. What was all the bragging about at that point in time? Like, you were more like Ramus, you were just okay. Because here's the thing, you haven't beaten anyone. Or you beat the worst G2 that's been sent to an international event since Czech's Notes, like fucking season 6 or something. Like, yeah, congrats. You didn't beat anyone else. By the way, you played anyone's legend who did have people who were inexperienced, never been to international before, a dedicated choker in Tarzan. They still handled you, by the way. They handled you in 4 games. Now in the lower bracket, you are playing BLG, where the name value is crazy, by the way. These are going to be some of the best players ever in Chinese League of Legends. But this is the perfect time to catch them, boys. Not only have they just been 3-0 clapped by T1, Bin's in his worst form ever. The jungler, the Jokers shouldn't even be in this team. He has no business even being on BLG. His main task is not to be Wei. That's it. So, like, I don't, like, if you don't win this one, miss me with all the fucking bragging, because here's what you don't seem to get, NA. Watch this little equation and you'll realize how wrong you are. When EU is better than NA, EU can actually contest, like, for the title or, like, a semi-final. When NA is better than EU, we're all just in the toilet and you're just the top turd before they flush us all. Straight fire. Straight fire. We're all shit, mate. You're all shit. You're just floating. That's all. There you go. Exactly. Exactly, motherfucker.
Top third.
Exactly. You're not top tier. You're just the top turd. That's all you are. That's all you are. And I'll tell you what, you can't polish a turd. Don't try. Don't even try. Anyway, though, no, I will say on this series, look, I do think it can be an exciting series. Like, first of all, I'll tell you what, Whippo, if you can give me again 1 game in a series where you just do that wacky top lane shit, you can get bid on this one, mate. This is probably the one time ever you got a chance to get him. Secondly, if this is an inspired masterclass, so BLG can't just accelerate the game, then we can have an interesting series. Now we can have some fun. I'm sort of with you, though, mate. The 2 people I actually worry about on the FlyQuest side is Mid and AD, though. Because, bro, this is where I do think Quad is a little bit of fool's gold. It's always in NA, he looks amazing. In NA, big fish in a small pond, he looks like fucking Knight. You know what I mean? He's hunting everyone. He's fucking flowing in the team fight. You can't do anything. Yeah, the problem is then he comes into this world and then it's like he's like a fucking velociraptor. And then he's just come along to the T-Rexes, hasn't he? Like, oh, fucking hell, there's some big dogs around here. He looks fucking nervous, mate. That sort of player, he has the same problem. Double lift out against Uzi I and people like, they know the other guy's supposed to be better than them. Bro, they're playing against like Knight. They know he's better than they are. I think players like Quad, that saps some of their confidence. And then the Masu angle is a big one. Because I'll tell you what, this year in general for Elk, been pretty quiet. I don't think it's been anywhere close to his best. It's been somewhat ruler-esque. He's had a lot of times where it's like, you're actually not even close to the best on your team. They win in spite of you. You just have an all right game. I'll tell you what, mate. Maso gets mad props again for being a Western player who's done really well, looks really mechanically strong. Elk is no joke, mate. You can't just imagine you're just going to beat this guy because you have like on paper, you have like the fucking power ranking stonks. Like, hey, I'm on the rise. Like, this guy again could trip over and have a great fucking series against you. This is a guy who actually probably now gets underrated because everyone overrated him in past years. Like, he's still a skilled player, mate. By the way, you look at the meta of this tournament. There's all these champions, all the fucking Kaisers and stuff. He's banging straight in on those, mate. He loves those champions. Like, I think it's going to be an interesting bot lane battle on this one. I'm interested. I want to see how it goes.
On has been pretty damn solid too, which I think matters as well. I think just in the 2v2, they're strong. It's just like the main thing for Bilibili, they're still one of the few teams that are still slamming the Callistas. They are one of the few teams that, for some reason, even though they have Elk, refuse to play Lucian Nami, which just drives me insane.
That's bizarre, isn't it? I know.
Like, bro, like it might sound arrogant, but I wish I could fly in and fucking draft for this fucking team because they have no idea about their own
last
strengths.
Year, he had one of the best solutions in the whole world. It was cracked, wasn't it?
It's so easy. It's like, okay, Bin, you're not playing Rumble. We're not playing fucking Ambessa. We're banning Rumble if we need to, and then you're gonna be great. Look at that, you're gonna be good again. Exactly. And then let's. Sure, you're a fantastic SJU. Let's keep that for later in the series. You're good enough of a laner to be able to slam a blind pick Kaiser. You can play Zyra Khan together with On. Let's be a little bit more dynamic here and get you champions that can actually get you into the game later on. Don't play these drafts that are just gonna fade after 15 minutes unless you can put your hands on something. Like it's so close, but at the same time so far because there seems to be like a deep arrogance in everything that is happening on this Bilibili roster. So I don't know what's going on there. Like maybe they need to fire some more coaches. Just easy hoon, big way, do something. Like just pick them champions they're good on. Just pull up Game of Legends, see what you're winning on, and pick it. Like please.
By the way, I actually do get the feeling as well in their team. They need the coach who, like you said, just says no. They need the disciplinarian guy. Like, you know what, Bin? No, you're not playing that. I don't care who you are, Bin. Put your fucking shirt back on and get on that fucking like I told you to, bitch. Get the fuck on. You know what I mean? He's had some egregious picks, and because I know what you mean, Yamato. This isn't just like bad form. People like Bin, he actually is now starting to remind me of the Shy Bro because they have that arrogance where it's like they just refuse to believe they're in bad form. They just keep forcing it constantly and slamming champions where it's like, mate, I'd be nervous if you played this at your peak, but you're playing this now when you're going to enter the game. Like, I don't think people like that know, by the way. Look, I guess maybe it's the mentality of the scorer in sports, like a striker in football. You don't stop goal for goal. You're a striker, right? But in this analogy, it's like you're not even passing to anyone. Now you're making like other players on your team feel like, oh, I'm not. First of all, he doesn't respect me because he's playing badly and he's doing that shit. And then also, now when he has a bad game, I guess it's going to be our fault, isn't it? Because this guy never accepts it's his issue. So I know what you mean. You don't have to say it in an interview. I like the Bin persona, the swag, the idea you're always the final boss, the top of the dojo, the LPL. But at least like show me in your picks and your play though that you do get that you're in like a bad shape right now and that it's not going awesome, that you're not going to go for every fucking play anymore. You're going to sort of, let the game come to you a little bit, then go crazy. Because I do feel like that is one of the problems with BLG. Put it this way, the real story in the low bracket is anyone's legend. Because if anyone's legend can make the run, I think that could be amazing against T1. That could be a banger match right before the final. The problem is, if anyone's legend somehow loses to BLG, it's going to be fucking GenG T1 final, mate. I'm sorry, it just is. Like, I had all the copium ready for that BLG T1 series, and they just clapped them. They clapped them. Even that third game was like, it already looked close on the scoreboard and shit like that. If you ever looked in the game, all the tools are on the side of T1. Like, as you say, just like, they're actually very comparable to G2. BLG is so fucking boring. Like, they're just paid by numbers. You know exactly how they're going to play at all times in the game. And the worst thing for you there, by the way, is people like T1 are fairly good at adapting. Like, they actually can play around that, mate. They're not just going to go, oh, well, because the difference is in the LPL, you might have some other team that's one-dimensional. They play their style, you play your style. Hey, let's just see who wins, right? That's not going to happen when you play the anyone's legends and the fucking T1s of the world. They'll get you. They'll get you if you play this style.
No, definitely. It's just so painful with Bilibili, like the whole storyline of how everything went down. And at the same time, like with Ben in particular, it's like we want him to be different now, but he's been this way his whole career, and that has brought him success. Yeah. Like he's always been pushing, and squeezing. And now when it's not landing, it's like I want it to be different because I want Bilibili to like fulfill their potential. But I guess that's the gift and the curse of being a player like that. Because I guess like a good comparison would be like someone like Zeus. It's like either he's gonna be the guy who like dies on side and dies by the blade, keeps picking the champions like the Vayne or the TF in spots that don't make too much sense, and he's going to die by the blade, or he's going to carry. And I guess there's
it's a good analogy. He's sort of the UCI top lane, isn't he?
Yes, there's beauty in that for sure.
Absolutely.
What else do we have?
Yeah, true actually. Is there an angle we've missed here? Oh, I mean, didn't technically talk specifically about anyone's Legend CFO though. Like, what is your anticipation for this series?
Like my main thing for me, like I think CFO is like a smaller version of AL. Like I think Driver is basically similar to Flandre in terms of his play. I think Junjia is very similar to Tarzan. Kai Wing, I think the main difference is that he is more skewed towards melees and he's more of a classic support. With the trash in the pocket, he's kind of like reminds me of a player like Ming or just like a so old school support that's been around the block for a long without wanting to play the Rangers too much. I feel like they're a mirror of each other in a lot of ways, but I just think that AL is just a little bit better, at all the same things. And I think this is going to be the difficulty because Honkyu and Shanks are the two best performing mid laners at this competition. So that's going to be just straight fireworks, like straight through. That's going to be amazing to watch. But I just think AL is just a little bit sharper. The timing is just a little bit better. Because even in that series against MKOI, there's like moments where CFO slip up. There's moments where they overreach. Even in that T1 series, that game one, where they went for that flank when they had Nash, like they threw away a whole CFO baby version of AL. I think by that. Like they're just so similar, but I think AL is just a little bit more sharp, a little bit better, and they will just succeed in the execution. So I think it's going to be very tough for CFO to upset here because they're just too similar, these two teams.
By the way, another angle that I wish people would think about goes like this. I do think Honkyu looks fucking sick. Junjia, we already knew. If you watch the last 4 years of League of Legends, you should know this guy's like a capable fucking jungler. And spoiler, he was also in the LPL. This is the thing that gives away that, you notice how almost every shit opinion in League comes back to the person doesn't watch the player play. So not only do you guys not watch the LPL because you don't know the top LPL players, you also never know the fucking Taiwanese players who then go back to Taiwan and you're going like, hey, who's this guy? It's like he was in like a fucking top LPL team like 4 years ago or something, mate. Like, what are you talking about? So to me, it's not that they have like 5 insane players. I don't even think they do, mate. I think they have like 1 super talent, 1 like really good experienced player. That between the rest of them, you know, that it's more like they have to have the right champion or the right comp. If I look at CF4, the obvious angle to me as to why they're actually good at the game is the angle that is always overlooked because unfortunately it's a black pill for the League of Legends circuit that I referred to earlier, which is, bro, they get to actually scrim LPL teams. They probably get the odd LCK scrim against, you know, like a KT or a fucking Nongshim or something. The real problem, and this is something me and Monty talked about a million times on Something Insight, because remember, Monty was the one who actually put the CLG subs in and sent his players to Korea to try and practice against Samsung White and Samsung Blue so they could get super high level competition, etc. Now, obviously, that didn't work when he got home, and so everyone just forgot about it. But like, the biggest problem I've always thought in League is just as individual players in off-season go, I need to get my level up, I'll go to Korea for that 3-week boot camp and get my skills all nice and sharp. I've always thought if League of Legends had been something more akin to an open circuit, like a Counter-Strike or a Dota, you would have teams would just live in Korea a third of the year. You know what I mean? You'd go there for a month, then you'd go back and play, you know, like 2 big lands that are the European lands. Then you'd become the split champions, you go the international. Then you'd go back to Korea again, you'd pipe your level back up again, you'd play scrims against all the teams, get the odd LPL scrim, then you'd go to your MSI, you'd play against that. Like, that would just be what people would do at this point in time. By the way, it was even done in StarCraft that people don't know. The people who stayed in Korea for like 3 months, after the first month and a half, would get insanely good and could suddenly beat the Koreans. The ones who went there just for a week and tried to play the tournament, they never ever got anywhere. That was just the way it worked. Like, at this point in time, people even joke the other way around. Like, it's sort of true. If you send Koreans the other way around, eventually they decay in the LCS. They decay in the LEC. Like, it's actually why I want to see how does Keeper's level up. That's quite interesting. He's only been there for about a year or so now. Let's see after 2 or 3 years, when you get to the impact stage of your career, where you're barely playing the Koreans. So I do think that's one thing. Look, I get why people don't bring it up because there's no fix right now. The circuit means you have to be in your region the majority of the year. It just is. It's just reality. It's nothing we can avoid right now. But that is a bummer for me because I do feel like from knowing other games, Yamato, I guarantee you, if you could send FlyQuest, KC, G2, MKOI, Cloud9, if all these teams were doing like a Korean boot camp every like 2 to 3 months, I think the level could be much higher. And also, I always say this, forget even just your scrim level, it's what it takes away from like the intimidation of playing the names. When you've already lost like 25 scrims to Chovy, you're not shitting your pants because it's Chovy. You're trying to figure out how do I beat him at this point in time. You know, you've already ticked over to the next like progression for me. So what do you think about this topic? You've been on many teams that have done the boot camps. You've seen the different regions. Where are you at on this one? Do you have a different angle?
No. I wholeheartedly agree, and there's so many good examples of it too. Like I think I remember there was the Excel roster with Mickey. Like they were very competitive after the boot camp. Like when I was on Vitality, we boot camped 3 times in total. Basically, like between spring and summer, we boot camped in both years, and then of course pre-Worlds 2018, we also boot camped. We boot camped once in China, 2 times in Korea, and like you just need to have. You just need to be willing to get slapped around. You know, it's kind of like that. 2-3 years send Dagestan and forget. We need to do. It's a very very. In my mind, I think. I do think the bootcamp angle is super important. I think you see a stark difference in performance for teams when Worlds and competition is in Europe. Like there was a big problem. Like imagine 2019 Worlds, it was in Europe. G2 said when the Korean teams arrived, they got completely blasted by them in scrims, and they needed to play insane amounts of catch-up. Maybe you can argue that them not flying around and getting the jet lag and dealing with all that stuff matters, and that they didn't get sick or whatever. But it is definitely like one of those cases of what if. I think anyone that wants to get good at anything, exposure and in tough competition just hardens you so much faster. You can see this in anything. Like even in such a small example of me when I was playing football, when I got to train with the adults, that just like made me so much better faster. In the beginning, it was like insanely intimidating, and it was very, very difficult because I was just smaller than everybody. But then you kind of figure it out because people need to survive. People want to survive. Unless you break, which happens too, where like teams just go to boot camps and collapse. I remember like Mad Lions 2021 when they're like, we canceled all scrims. We just decided scrimming is not useful for us, and it's just better for us to not scrim. And sure, they made quarters, but to reach that point, obviously signals, worse issues. Happened to us 2022 as well, where we just, scrimming is not working out for us. Yeah.
Well, even if the Koreans came to Europe, right in the summer for MSI, it was all hot. They were dealing with a new environment. They were sweating, pepper sweating, because even Caps was pushing their shit in. Eventually, they did clean it all up, though. And eventually, they got back on top in League of Legends. So maybe they, like you, use brilliant products like Mando. Because right now, it's right smack in the summertime in Europe. You've already started to see the same articles you see every single year. Let's get ready on the bingo card. There's the article where it goes, London's in a heat wave, and it's like 30 degrees. There's that famous image they always do every year of Germany, where they'll show Germany and the temperatures on the screen say 29, but they'll literally show what looks like Mount Vesuvius erupting in the background of like red, like insane, like just like some, like you think like Garandor, some fucker's just going to come around the corner. Like it's absolutely outrageous, the propaganda. But anyway, my point is, summer is here, and you are already sweating. Not just if you're an EU or an NA fan watching MSI. You're just sweating in general. We're all inside houses. We haven't always got the best AC, have we? So at this point, when we all sweat, it's totally human. There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually a good thing. It's your body venting heat out of itself so that you don't burn up, isn't it? But the problem is that pesky bacteria, I'm not talking about FlyQuest fans. They get in there. They start eating. They're not even that bad as fans, but fuck them. You know what? Anyone can get at this point. I'm mad that you're a plus, so I'm taking it out on everyone now. Jesus. I'm the abusive dad in this analogy. So that bacteria gets in there and it starts eating all that sweat, all that hard effort that toil you put in, just like FlyQuest fans, consuming it all schadenfrei. Delicious. It's your sweat is sweet, Thorin. Inspired. It's like they're all European, you fucking idiot. Let me know what Masso and Busio actually do. Then I'll talk about Americans. So basically, that's what the smell comes from. And the beauty of Mando is that's exactly where they have focused all their technology. That's exactly what they've isolated. And they've figured out ways that when you use their deodorants and their bodies and all the stuff from the pits and the balls and the thigh folds and everywhere that you can possibly sweat from, they've actually nailed it so they can get the smell basically down to zero. You can be odor free for something like 72 hours, which is bonkers. Like, remember, that's not even just like 2 days, that's way more even. So also, if you're ever going away for a weekend, maybe there's festivals coming up, maybe you're just hanging out with friends, you're having a old school LAN party, maybe you're the guy taped with all the duct tape to the ceiling, maybe they don't even have a chair for you, show out that old picture everyone always links to. Maybe in this world, as you're chomping down on pizzas in some hot, sweaty fucking German attic, maybe at that point, you might like to be considerate to your people around you and wear some wonderful Mando products so you don't stink. At that point in time, you'll just be doing it all right, won't you? Also, their products are all baking soda free, paraben free. They have all sorts of lovely smells as well, by the way. It's not all like fruity. It's stuff like bourbon leather, which I think is a really nice one. Mount Fuji. You can even in your mind just imagine a clear Japanese day looking up from down there at Mount Fuji, as it were. The cherry blossoms in the air swift by your nose. Oh, you can even imagine. They've got the clover woods. They've got the Pro Sport. They've got them all, mate. They've got them all. And it's even though FlyQuest is basically just powered by Europeans, this is American through and through. It's America's #1 whole body deodorant formula, and you can get it right now. You can find them in all sorts of different shops. You can find them in Target. That's the one with the bullseye arrow thing. You got them in Walmart. That's the place where I won't even insert the joke there. Let's just say interesting hiring demographics, don't they, in that place? Si, senor. And other retailers across the country. Yeah, that's right. We're getting political and edgy now, you might understand that. So if you don't know anything about Mando, why not get the starter pack? Clues in the name, starter pack. It's where you start out, isn't it? It's like at the beginning of the game, you get like one little item, you get some few health potions, and you get a little map leading the way to Kakariko Village, don't you? Well, fuck Kakariko Village. How about just get started on Mando? Because their starter pack comes with a solid stick deodorant. That's a really easy one to just put on in it. The cream tube deodorant, that's got a very interesting smell to it. And 2 free products of your choice. You could take mini body wash, can't go wrong with that. Deodorant wipes we always recommend because, again, if you sat around your PC, easiest thing if you can't get to a sink. And comes with free shipping. So as a special offer for our listeners, new customers get 20% off site-wide with their exclusive code. Use the code SUMMONING, SUMMONING, at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them what we sent you. That way you benefit, you get the 20% off, you get the starter kit, you stop stinking, we get some more money, Yamato gets a better mic. Next thing you know, we're all fucking enjoying life. Now everything's great, isn't it? And along the way, no baking soda involved, if for whatever reason that gets you. I wasn't even aware baking soda was in there. I thought I was for cooking or something, but whatever. All the same, keep it out. Good, well done. Just don't put it in there, whatever. I like it. Thanks to Mando. Thanks to anyone who buys Mando products. Right, I reckon we just do some fan Q&A, do the
Sounds
Q&A.
good.
We'll do a little break, we'll come back, we'll do some Q&A, maybe do half an hour, and then we'll be off. Right, the last segment of the show. It's been a little bit of a shorter one, but don't worry. We'll do a nice big one when MSI's over and break down all the awesome matches and all the narratives and make either crown Chovy the best player ever or make corpus to why he didn't win and why still doesn't count for Faker and he hasn't been really good since 2021. Whatever. We'll do all the usual. But now we do the viewer questions, which is, if you remember at the beginning of the episode, I talked about how on the Last Nation Discord, you can enter that competition for merch. Well, that's also where you go to become someone who asks questions, because if you subscribe to the Last Nation Discord, there are a whole bunch of channels you will gain access to. Like, for example, on Hot Take Point Made League of Legends and CS editions, you can put your own hot take there. You can ask questions for the Four Horsemen. We very rarely ever get to them, but just in case we do eventually. And then obviously we now have the question section for this show, SI questions. I go there now and I draw from that particular set of them. Again, if you don't want your name said, just say, don't put my name on, please. Here's an interesting one, because I don't know what Yamato's take is, so I'll be interested. So Zabel, some sort of Polish name, says, why are the new Dune movies so bad? So do you think the Denis Villeneuve Dune movies, did you think they were bad? What do you think of them? I don't know your take on them.
It's like my take. I watch both, but I haven't read the books, so I'm going in very very blind. So I don't have like a really big point of comparison. I think in terms of the budget and the in terms of how they build the landscape and everything is a very very well made and beautifully done. But I feel like with the budget, you kind of expect this to be, you know, one of those legendary movie series that is going to just take over and just last. You know, that's something that people go back to, like Lord of the Rings at that scale, pretty much. And I don't feel like it carries that same rewatchability for me personally. It's like I watched through them, I enjoyed them, but that's it. You know, that's it. I don't have anything additional to add, and I think that if I didn't see them in cinema, I do feel like I would lose some of that, you know, money value of how much was put into the actual production. So for me, enjoyable, but nothing that like I'm going to be watching in like 20 years and be like, wow, unless the next follow-up is going to really be like completely breaking the meta completely, but I doubt that.
I mean, I am a massive fan of the Dune book series. Essentially, it's my favorite series of all time.
Okay.
And I'm actually a big Denis Villeneuve, the director, fan. I actually think he's one of the best modern day directors like that we've had in the 20th century, basically. He would be up there with Christopher Nolan for like strongest catalogue of movies. You go watch things like Arrival or Prisoners, these Sicario, these are mega films, mate. Like, he's a really, really good director. The problem is I do think these are some of his weaker films. Now, I will say, if you want a really in-depth thing, one, about the second Dune, I actually did a short video on my side channel, and then secondly on the LFN Culture channel we had a whole episode where we reviewed both of the Dune films of Denis Villeneuve, and we went super in depth, me, Richard Lewis and Monty. So there's a whole bunch of that stuff, but I'll hit the big points to me. First of all, it is an example in my opinion of a film where you did use some like woke thinking with some of the casting and it made it worse. So I'll give you an example. I have no idea why Zendaya's even cast in that movie. Like, maybe maybe she's all right for a Spider-Man film or something like that. To me, she didn't have anywhere close to the sort of acting chops to pull that character off, because that character, the Chani character, is supposed to be like a really nuanced one who simultaneously is like part of the Fremen and those people and follows their traditions, but also has an aspect where she's actually related. This is how they fucked up the woke aspect. She's related to the character, believe it or not, from the first Dune, who was that black woman with dreads, because she wasn't a black woman in the books, mate. That was a man, and that was actually, I think, the father or the grandfather of the Chani character, but you don't get that from the film because they gender and race swapped it, and in doing so sort of undercut that narrative. And so, first of all, I don't think that aspect was very good. I actually thought she almost actively undercut the central theme of the movie about like the heroic figure and what he's trying to do and the danger of doing so, because then you can become like the figure point of a cult, etc. In general, I'd say the worst thing about the film, I'm agreeing with you. I think as a first time watch, they're good. They're definitely a visual feast, but I think they're quite hollow, actually. I don't think this, I know what you mean. They don't have what even the original Star Wars had, but definitely Lord of the Rings. They don't have that epic quality to them where like you feel like you're connected with some giant narrative that's going to be awesome. And sadly, that's because this director seemed to go into it wanting to sort of like almost battle the core premise of Dune, which is about the idea of what happens when the hero's journey ends, and then you have to go on with your life. You don't just live happily ever after. Maybe you then become the tyrannical figure because you're the one in power. Whereas there's a really interesting thing you could do that. They didn't really, he tried to hit that too much. And in doing so, I think he took out all the magic of the film. I'll give you an example. In the scene in the second film where Paul goes and undergoes what's called the spice agony that all the Bene Gesserit women do. And remember, the whole premise is no man can do this. A man does that, he dies immediately, because you have to be the Kwisatz Haderach, like the chosen one, who's capable of actually like transmuting it from poison into this magical substance. And then what you're supposed to do is you then get essentially like a giga psychedelic journey where you like experience all your ancestors and all of time and space. And they didn't do that. They had it like be like a 30-second scene. It was just like, ooh, like, and then it's over. Like, because again, for some weird reason, they were trying to like undercut the big themes of the film. Whereas to me, if you're making a film about things like Troy, fucking like knights of old, like people who are legendary warriors, you want to make it fucking epic. You want to make like, if you ever get a chance to do something graphical like that, you want it to be like some amazing graphical package of like hints of one period of time, then an ancestor coming out. For some reason, he made it actually almost like a very secular science fiction film. It actually had a lot of that missing, and it felt more just about like some weird scuffle on a desert planet to just stop being wrecked by the Harkonnen. I thought it was just a bit whack to me. So yeah, you can look up if you want a longer form discussion on the LFN Culture channel. Tallahassee riot supervisor Yamato canon. Who is your favorite supervillain? Which villain do you like?
Ooh, like I'm a big Final Fantasy guy. So there's two that stand out right away from my side. There is the main villain of Final Fantasy VI, Kefka, and then there's the main villain of Final Fantasy VII, Sephiroth. It's like the story from the angle of like I think when the villain kind of makes sense to some degree, where the hardships are so clear and the deception that the villain went through to reach the point of complete like seeing the world through the lens of, oh, the world needs to burn because we don't deserve existence and for what we've done to the earth that we're living on. I think that arc to me is very interesting, and I think how the game I think Final Fantasy VII, the original game, did a better job of maintaining the mystery of the character, and they gave you bits and pieces of what the story was.
And shit. Yeah.
But I think what the remakes did, I think they did it too obvious, and the way they did it obvious didn't let your imagination take it to places where you can make it interesting. And I think that for me is what makes some of the older games really, really insane, because they needed to do it to an audience that didn't have access to like YouTube that would break things down, or like some guides or like leaks or anything. It was like, if you buy a game, that needs to occupy you for the next 6 months in terms of gameplay and breaking down the story. So Sephiroth to me is one that definitely stands out.
Oh, by the way, a spoiler, if anyone's never played Final Fantasy VII, this will be a massive spoiler. But I know what you mean. In the original Final Fantasy VII, how they handle his storyline, because obviously you think it's just the bad guy, but the whole point is that ends up being the backstory for Cloud himself, the main character. Like, that is masterfully done with those little flashbacks. I even thought it was so dope in that game, the way they did the flashbacks, not as a 3D cutscene. They do it within the game with like the same isometric characters. That's really cool, actually. I thought that worked really well. And the idea he was like a failed clone of like Sephiroth. It's like a massive reveal. That's like some Darth Vader, I am your father moment. It's fucking baller, in it. No, I'm with you. That was a banger. Here's the thing. I'm going to go comics on this one, obviously. The two that I've always been a fan of, I've always thought Marvel has the best supervillains, because I think like the Joker, I think is overrated. It's just if you have a great actor play it, or you can craft a good story. His actual powers are stupid. He doesn't really have any. He's just a fucking nutter. That's it. So how would he be able to battle actual superheroes? Spoiler, he doesn't. That's why they make him battle Batman all the time. Because obviously Superman would just rock this guy's shit in 5 seconds flat. What I love about the Marvel ones is they are operatic. My two favorites are easily Magneto, if you ever stop and think about the backstory of Magneto, how is what he does not in some way justified, by the way? He literally, one, was in like concentration camps as a Jew, and then two, as a mutant, people want to like imprison him and take all his powers away. Like, mate, this guy has a pretty good justification to go, you know what? I'm not just paranoid. People are out to get me. People are just fucking, if they see you as the other, they're going to fucking try and kill us. Like, I think he has one of the most like sympathetic cases in comics. And then if you see some of the horrible things that happened to him and his family, not with the story, I totally get why he'd be somewhat genocidal and maniacal. Yeah, you wouldn't imagine doing that yourself, but you haven't been through that experience, have you? So I've always thought, compared to villains that are just like, I'm evil, like Mephisto or something, this guy has a way but more interesting like aspect to who he is and how he got. And as a result, it's also why you can give him some brilliant speeches about like, you know, the world and the way things are. And then along similar lines, I've always thought the character Doctor Doom is fucking straight fire. Now, first of all, if people don't know, one of the cleverest aspects they had to him it's the idea that he's the leader of his own country. And in his country, he's killing it, mate. Like, his country's awesome because of him. He's a fucking super sick leader. But then he's interacting with, like, essentially Americans and all that bullshit. And then I think he just is a really good, like, super villainous character, but who's got, like, an interesting element to his personality that, like, keeps you engaged in some ways. And also, he's got a very interesting set of powers where they're not super obvious. And you always wonder how someone's going to write him, how they're going to use those skills. So I've always thought the Marvel ones were the best. Here's one. It's a mental question, but fuck it, Yamato. Milkman22. What are some of your favourite fiction/fantasy books? He says, I know Thorin likes Dune, but get ready for the follow-up. Have either of you ever considered writing a fiction novel yourself? Have you ever thought of writing a novel?
Oh not ever. Like I always hated writing growing up, because like in Sweden it was enforced, like in school, really really harshly through like Swedish classes or English classes or German classes. Like you had to do a lot of writing, and the way you got graded was so strange because she would just say that, oh, the storytelling is bad, it's wrong, and you would get graded in a way that didn't seem like tethered to anything. So it always bothered me. I was always more of the guy, like I did a lot of drawings growing up. Like I was always the one drawing, and in that avenue I
you
did
doing
like
comic shit and fantasy stuff? Was it like cool stuff?
like I wasn't doing I was just doing like characters like in actions, like I was always doing like fight scenes, so to speak, like fantasy characters. So it's like I had my fair share of like fantasy characters that I kept like coming back to redrawing, but the story was never put into anything besides my like imagination of what they went through and what they were. So they became reoccurring on my through my pen on the paper, but there wasn't anything like thoughtful behind it. It was always like when I grew up, I was always like alone and in isolations. Like I was the only foreigner in my class, got bullied and shit like this. So it's like it was my solace, you know, to just draw when the family PC was occupied. So that was my avenue of exploring fantasy ideas for sure.
What are your favorite fiction or fantasy books? What's your wheelhouse normally?
Oof. It's like in terms of books, it's like the ones like that on the fantasy front, I am very, very basic. It's like I read the Lord of the Rings, and then I read like the Harry Potter books growing up. But other than that, like all the books that I read is just plain and simple through and through, just like either self-help books or like some philosophical books or history. That's more where my interest is in regards to. Like if I look at any forms of media, I already mentioned like Final Fantasy. Like I'm a big fan of the Dungeons and Dragons universe too. I think like the Baldur's Gate games. It's not only the third one, but like Baldur's Gate 1 for me was one of the just greatest games of all time for me. It's just like I like the whole story of like Gorion and the Ward and like everything, how it like breaks down and how the universes are tied together in a very cool way. It's like I love playing like a random board game and then they just reference like a town that I was in when I played Baldur's Gate 20 years ago. You know, I love seeing those connections. So like the Dungeons and Dragons universe is definitely one for me.
Aside from Dune, I'm not someone who reads like tons of fiction and fantasy, but I do have some I like. Like I do like the Hyperion Cantos, if people have ever read that. I think that's simultaneously quite adult. It's got like very sort of philosophical aspects to it about life and love and longing and what it means to have destiny and to be your own person and to be a father, all sorts of amazing topics. But it's also got like a sci-fi underpinning that's kind of cool with like AI and fucking these like alien almost deities that are almost Lovecraftian and how out there they are in your mind. I do think actually not just the first book, but the Ender's Game series is very good as well. I think that also explores a lot of different ideas about like, again, like what does it mean to be alien? What does it mean to be human? How do we rule society and stuff like that? And then lastly, it was mainly when I was a teenager, but I actually always did think the Discworld books of Terry Pratchett are pretty fun. Like if people like, the obvious example is like Douglas Adams, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You have to read these books. You would love these as well. It's all just about like, it's like a very British style of comedy, like Monty Python-esque basically. And it's more like, he's using a lot of like classical story archetypes, but it's all about like the banter of the characters basically. And some of the characters, especially like the guards ones, etc., Mort, some of them are really well done. Some of the characters you can really get into. And crucially, there's a billion of those books. You don't have to read them all. You can actually just look up which characters are in each of the books. They're not in chronological order. You can just follow those ones. So if you like the guards ones, there's 3 or 4 of those. You like the Rincewind ones, there's a few of those. So they're actually ones where I would just pick out the good book. I wouldn't go from book 1 to book whatever, 40. There'll be too much. So just pick out the good ones. I'll just go to a really good book like Reaper Man or something. Right. Here we go. Big boy. A genie allows you to change the outcome of a single game in League of Legends esports history. You decide that you want your choice to cause the biggest possible impact on history and narratives. Which game do you choose? So you have to make one where this is just like, this would be like the Thanos snap moment, you know, it changes all of history and time.
Oh, I need to have a think.
I'll give you one right off the bat. Listen,
All right,
first
let's
of
hear
all,
it.
Yamato, listen, I don't tell you what to say on these episodes, but I hope people are learning now. One, that Monte Cristo is a master podcaster. He can talk forever without ever tripping over himself, never gets lost. And then two, people think Yamato, it's easy because in Twitch chat, they're all going to say a bunch of shit now because they don't know what it's like to actually be under pressure. It's quite hard to be asked an enormous question out of nowhere, right? People like me, my ability is to just talk, but I've got a lot of reps doing it. So I hope people understand it's not that easy. I'll give you one right off the top of my head. Since he wants it to be the biggest possible impact. Are you ready? Here's what we do. Remember season 3 Worlds? In the semis, it was 2-2 against Najin Blacksword. T1 against Najin Blacksword. If Najin Blacksword wins that game, Faker would have been LCK champion, OGN champion. He wouldn't have won Worlds. By the way, the winner of Worlds probably would be Najin Blacksword, actually. I think they would have beaten RNG. So people like Prey would have won Nagne would have won the first big Korean Worlds. Faker would start season 4, which was a bad season for him with all the Xerath and Ziggs. Who the fuck knows what Faker's career would be right now? Because one thing I hate about these dumbass bitches that talk about great players is they have no clue what greatness is about. They think greatness is a stat you're born with. And it's like Goku. You were always going to be the best if you just tried. Like, no. The beauty of greatness is this. Some of it involves luck no matter who you are. Like, if Faker loses his first 3 or 4 out of his first 4 finals, who knows what happened? Maybe he becomes a choker. Maybe he's the guy who can't trust teammates. You can never know. Similarly, you go back the other way. If you'd have had someone like a Chovy winning like 2020 or 2021, his whole story might be different. Maybe he's a serial winner after that. I always think people really overlook those environmental aspects and the sort of the order that your story goes in. I think has a big impact. So I think that would be a banger right there because, bro, if I change Faker, and by the way, imagine a world where Prey's a world champion and he won OGN that year. We're talking that everyone's story just goes upside down here, mate. So do you have what are you thinking of?
Yeah, it's like my mind went directly to the Ryu fucking Faker game, but looking at it from the LPL angle, like I think if RNG managed to beat T1 at 2017 Worlds, I really think RNG would win that finals against Samsung because I think they were just the team for this. I think it was just like a prep mistake, and I think that could have also changed the trajectory of many things. It's like Uzi in terms of what he was as a player, and just LPL as a region as a whole to win a Worlds even earlier than 2018. And I think on the flip side too, if KT beat IG at that World Championship in quarterfinals, I think the LPL outlook would have just been shattered already. It's like in terms of the effect that it had in terms of then FPX winning and putting LPL on a map in a I mean like IG won, right, and then FPX won.
Next year,
for the next year. It's like I don't know how it would reflect on that. And then in the context of just like because looking at how the fan base reacted to Bilibili not winning, like everyone just believes that now with the laws that are in China in terms of the play, and it's like people have a stagnating interest. It's like imagine if there was no Worlds 1 at all. It's like IG, Rookie, they're shy, and of course Jackie Love. They are some of the most beloved players in the world in League outside of Faker. And if that just didn't go down, then I don't know what would happen to the LPO.
No, I think it's a banger. Because this is the thing. There's other games I would change, but I like the framing that you have to try and change as much of history as possible. By the way, your IG one's a banger too. Because I think if KT wins that, they win Worlds. Mate, imagine a world where that roster of like Deft, Matter, Smeb, like fucking hell, that would score. Bro, that would be a fucking interesting group of people to get a Worlds. That would be. It was only Matter had one, mate. It would be a game changer if Faker has, if Smeb has one. Fucking, by the way, if Score had a Worlds, that feels like that's the world I want to live in, mate. I want to be in that time. And this guy, I do think, by the way, I do think until Canyon he was the greatest jungler. I don't care that he only won one LCK. He was fucking unbelievable. He was one of those guys where like his baseline level was impossible. He could be in a game and losing, and he's one of those guys who just knew what to do. He was super genius. But sadly, if your best result ever is like I made a quarters of Worlds, no one gives a fuck. Sadly, that's just the nature how it goes.
Definitely.
Right, wait there a second. Let's see. I've got an interesting one. I'd like to see what you think about this mainly. So Sassy says, why do you think sports betting is so commonly used as a retort to people who condemn Saudi esports washing as if they are morally equivalent? Maybe such an argument could have been made back in the day when sports betting was heavily tied to organised crime, but now it is surely a cheap cop-out due to its government regulation and ubiquity. Again, essentially, I wonder, because you're not someone who really comes from this world, it's more of a Counter-Strike world. What do you think about this? Because essentially it's true, Yamato. If you're someone like me, for example, now I'll just point out for the millionth time, it won't do any good. It'll do me no good, because what I say isn't what I mean, apparently. Only people who know what I mean is mentally ill people sat at home who change what I say. So I've said 1,000,000 times, I don't give a fuck what the Saudis do in their country. I don't care about anything they do. What I care about is people going, I really care about it and I'm willing to put my job on the line. And then you go, right, well, your job's on the line. They go, well, fuck, I need to work, so I won't do anything. I care about hypocrites and people who are praised as good people and they're not good people by their own actions that they've set up. So I'm not someone, by the way, who goes, the Saudis are evil. And then I go, check out my sports betting. What I do is I don't give a fuck about the Saudis, but obviously I do promote sports betting, right? But he's right. It's a go-to angle that people go, oh yeah? How can you call out the Saudis? Never have. When you're engaged in betting. And they make it sound like that's the same thing. So I just wonder, I don't know. By the way, in Sweden, they must have betting, right? It must be illegal. In Sweden. Is it something like when you only saw stuff like CS was involved? Were you concerned about betting in esports? Is it something you consider? And again, where do you come down on this?
Like on my side, I think it's just a question of like demographics and how you pull it off. I do think it's just the only point of comparison is like there is very few sources that can operate. There's very few sources of money that can operate with these type of margins. Like the betting sponsors, they can pay out money because they have a good return. And if you think a little bit deeper on where the return comes from, then obviously it's from people, right? And it's like I have my own betting Discord, right? And the way I've done it is it's like I have my own betting Discord and I don't do it on stream perma, but it's like if anyone's interested, they're welcome to go to the Discord.
Right.
And it requires people to do like the the usual like the phone authentication on their Discord account to participate. Right. So that's like my angle. I think the only point of comparison is that, the Saudis can operate with these fucking so deep in the red because they have so deep pockets, and also from the gambling side, that's the only point of comparison. But like morally, I don't think it's like relevant. I think it's just a question of this is what is happening in the sports world. This has happened in the sports world for such a long time, and it was just a natural progression of esports. It's like either you have organizations with employees and then they have money and players can get paid, or you have the DreamHack variant of esports where like the old school one. I'm not talking the one that like got bought up now. Like the old school one, I was like people playing at LAN and qualifying and like being sweaty and sleeping on like the
scene vibe.
Yeah. It's like just basically like if you go the average Smash Bros melee tournament where you just see like a bunch of guys just like cheering on, like that's what esports would be, and maybe that would be a better world. But this is the choice that's been made because in the end we live in a world where obviously it's a capitalism as the forefront of everything. Everyone needs to make money. Everyone needs to put a value on their time, and I think it's just a natural progression. But I think in terms of a moral equivalency, I don't think it makes much sense. But I think it's always going to be like, look at how many people are affected by gambling, and people are going to say, well, look what the Saudis did in Yemen, and look what the human rights violation. It's like, well, what kind of a comparison is this? It's like we're comparing completely fucking psychotic things. It doesn't make any sense.
I also do think anyone who thinks those two things are comparable is just intellectually a child. So you think, let me do the Anubis, weighing up the heart against the feather, right? So on the one hand, we've got literally chopping people's heads off the same month EWC takes place and putting activists in prison, sometimes for being, by the way, just heretical against Islam. That's all they've done. They go to prison for 30 years or get their head chopped off. Or someone can willingly choose to gamble and they might lose. You see how the gambler one can never get the one about chopping heads off ever close. You are a fucking idiot if you think those are similar. That's like saying, for real, someone going, hey guys, we have to stop this fire where all people are dying and there's no resources being put there. And you go, oh yeah, you care about that. But one time you parked slightly over the lines in a garage and two spots were taken. It's like, mate, you're not a serious person. The idea you think those are comparable makes you a fucking joke. And then secondly, I would just quickly say about this whole topic, the Saudi one wouldn't even be a problem if you could all just actually be honest with yourself and admit you don't care about people in other countries. You pretend you do, because movies have made you all believe you have to lie to everyone around you publicly and say, I care about all gay people in the world. I care about all refugees. I care about... Nobody cares about everyone. Not a single group of people in the entire world. Even if you care about refugees, you mean a very specific type of refugee. You don't mean a random refugee from Yemen. You didn't even know they had refugees, did you? You've never looked into it at all. You don't mean a refugee from fucking some middle Asian country that's having a small border conflict. You don't know about that. You care about the big one on the news. That's your cause, right? Similarly, you maybe care about gay people in your country, you, your family, your friends. But what esports has now shown is you don't care about the ones in Saudi Arabia. They didn't exist 1 second before you found out about them. You know there's nothing you can do. Not watching the tournament won't save their life. So let's be real. Stop being a pretend saint who pretends he's the most virtuous person ever. You just don't really care. And by the way, that's not a bad thing. Care about the things in your sphere that you can deal with, and humans aren't capable of caring about billions of people. We can only have, I'd say it'd be amazing if you could even really care about 1,000 people. Your brain can only fit so many people, and they usually have to have a connection to you. That's the logical reason to care about people. You know what? If something happened to a family member of mine, Yamato, maybe I would go to war. Maybe I'd fucking boycott something forever. If it happens to a random person around the world, I'm not going to do that. That's just being honest. Difference is I don't pretend otherwise. I think this whole topic's so silly. Like the idea, by the way, one, you don't have to condemn any of it, but two, the idea it's like well, who's the worst out of us though? It's like, fuck off, mate. Just fuck off already.
So something to add as well from my side is like, because I've had this conversation on streams and people are asking me, it's like, are you going to stream EWC? I said, I'm honestly not sure. It's like, I'm not sure, because it's like, my take is, it's like at some point I'll have to make a decision, because esports is synonymous with things, and then I have to make a decision. It's like either I'm going to work in esports or not. But I would never go to the lengths of, I'm not doing this, and everyone that does is worse than me. Like that is so crazy. You know, that is so crazy.
The reason you're doing it right is you're totally admitting, I'm going to make a judgment based on where we are today. That's the mistake the others made, Yamato. They thought they could make a crazy pronouncement about all of time. I'll never work with those people. Well, never's a big word, mate. As soon as that means there's no, you can't then go, but I need the money. No, you said never. You said never for effect. So I'm with you, Yamato. No one knows where the industry will be in a few years. And by the way, that means if you decide this year not to do it, but next year you just decide that's right for your career, you can also change your mind. As long as you haven't made some crazy proclamation, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, mate. People are allowed to change as information comes along. Absolutely. Right, here's one. Look, we missed this one because it was before 4th of July, but we'll do it anyway, actually. Morgwina says, stealing the idea from the current foreplay arc and the upcoming holiday, 4th of July. By the way, I'll just point this out to Americans. I don't celebrate the 4th of July. Think it through. It is not a holiday for me, you fucking idiot. Why would I celebrate the 4th of July? Do you celebrate losing Vietnam? Exactly. Do you remember that? You did lose Vietnam way before we lost 4th of July. Anyway, whatever. Fuck y'all. I can throw salt back in your wound, bitch. So anyway, the question goes, which is each of your favourite red, white and blue, either American sports movie or war movie? By the way, the two things Americans do the best. Which would you pick? Pick one. It has to be like a real, full-on like American one. Either a sports movie or a war movie. I can already say, if you watch this recent arc, it's actually just come out now. I picked my favourite sports movie, which is the movie Rudy with Sean Astin, the fucking Samwise Gamgee guy. He's like a guy who wants to be he wants to play for Notre Dame college football, even though he's 5 foot tall. And it's a mega inspirational film, you know. It's a really good fucking. It's one of those ones you'll have a fucking tear coming down that. You haven't ugly cried like that since that fucking winter split with Karmik. It's why I reference that every fucking episode. Listen, my bad. I can't go to the wound every time. I can't keep poking over. Do you have a war or a sports movie that you're thinking of though?
It's like, Yamato, which is your favorite piece of propaganda? No, I'm kidding. No, bro, the first one that came to mind, honestly, is Forrest Gump. I think Forrest Gump has a wide spectrum of covering everything. He did the sports side, and I think they did they presented history in a very interesting manner, because I think the execution of that movie is very, very nice, and also at the same time, like the character Forrest Gump also embodies some of the good and the bad stereotypes of an American, you know. So I think they embody that super well. And then, if I had to add something, it's just Saving Private Ryan, because that's just, good movie, But I think Forrest Gump, I'll stick to it.
For war movies, I will say my favourite. It's going to be a bit harder for some people because it's a really long film. It's really dense. It's the film The Thin Red Line by Terrence Malick, where it's got like a massive cast of people. I think it's just a really brilliant movie because it not only has like some quite interesting like war scenes in it, but I think the most amazing part is it's actually very sort of poetic. It has a lot of like scenes of people with their internal monologue thinking about like what it means to be away from your family, or what war means, or what happens when you battle with someone from another country. I think it's a brilliant film. I'd go into it totally blind if I were you and just set aside a few hours, sit down, but you'll feel like you were in war. It's one of those ones where you feel like you went through a whole experience by the time the credits roll. I think we'll do one last question, Yamato. One last question. You've done a good one this episode. Right, let me see. Here's a good one. This is a hell of a question to end on. Are you ready? Dot Pounder 420. Says, considering the vast majority of your audience is probably young men who struggle with women, what are 2 or 3 things you've learned about women that have helped you the most in the dating market? So here's the thing, we're just going to be the onks on this one, giving a little bit of advice to the nephews in it. So can you think of some things? Could be as big picture, small picture, could be whatever angle you want, mate.
I think in the end, the best thing that you can do is just like take care of your own shit, I think that always taking care of your own shit, meaning it's like clear your mind, don't plug every hole with every vice possible because it's so accessible. I think that's where it's like the necessities of people are so easily found in, whether it's fucking porn or whatever the fuck. There's so many vices that are just accessible to you. And I think you get removed from what the problems of your mind actually are. You don't give yourself time to think. And I think if you figure out yourself, meaning like where you stand and what you want, and then on top of that, you actually expose yourself to situations where you meet people, I think the progression becomes natural. Because the figuring out your own basis in terms of where you're at, I think is a very difficult thing because there's so many things that can just pull your attention. It's like you need to value your own attention because there's a million YouTube things, there's a million podcasts, there's a million shorts or TikToks or whatever that can just eat at your attention and removes attention away from what you need to do. And then on top of that, that also restricts you from actually engaging in activities that will actually make you meet people. And I think as long as you meet people and you seek to figure out bonds with like-minded individuals, eventually you'll find your significant other. I think that's the only way to do it. I think if you actively pursue something, I think, and your intention is to just do that, I feel like often the best relationships happen like almost indirectly. But doing so, I understand, is very, very hard nowadays, and a lot of people that I know are together because of dating apps, and I understand the loops and the hoops and the difficulties of the day-to-day life in terms of how stressful it is, and that could be a very, very good way for a lot of people. But I think just figuring out yourself and then exposing yourself to situations where you meet new people and you connect with more people, I think that's like the only way, because for you, what you need and what the person that you're going to meet eventually, hopefully, needs is going to be entirely unique to you. So I think getting more specific than that just gets weird, it's not going to be like, oh, you need to go walk up to a woman, you need to flash that you have a Porsche car, fuck all of that shit.
I will say I'm going to give some quite vague advice too, because I agree with what you're saying there. First of all, I actually think most things in life, what means people don't improve is you just work on fundamental basics and that's what you level up. But that sounds boring. You all want me to go, here, don't tell anyone, but here's what it says on page 149. You say this to the girl and then she has to love you. Like, you're all looking for some video game cheat code. There isn't. By the way, if you want to get good at any video game, work on the basics of the controls of the character, when to use items, and what the fucking strategy of the game is. Like, you work on those basics, you'll complete any video game. So what I'll explain is very simply, I want to give the analogy of the gym. When you go to the gym, imagine being someone where in your mind, you'd love to be really fit and worked out and jacked and look really awesome and be in great health. But you go to the gym once every 6 months And when you go there, you try doing a deadlift. Oh, it's fucking killing my back. You're trying to do a fucking dumbbells. You can't barely do it. And then you go, you know what? I'm just bad at dumbbells and weightlifting. You haven't trained on it. You've been once in 6 months. That's what most people are like when it comes to trying to pick up a girl. What happens is you wait until randomly she appears like a movie out of nowhere in the bar, in the place. Suddenly, you're not prepared at all because you haven't thought about this. It's not something you do regularly. In fact, probably you don't even go and have normal conversations. You don't talk to the woman in the fucking shop when you buy the bus ticket. You don't talk to the guy when you're fucking serving you your drink and it's a slow day. By the way, these are all times to level your skills up, boys. This is how that's the equivalent of playing ARAM before you go in the fucking game. You want to get your skills nice and tested out when it doesn't matter. Do it. Learn how to do it. By the way, if you can't ask an old woman what time is it when you're walking down the road, how the fuck are you going to go up to some straight dime piece and ask them for their number? You're not going to manage it, are you? So you do the low stakes examples. And the reason I give the gym analogy is this. Everyone can get way better at every gym exercise. You just have to go first. Notice how there's the first thing. You got to go. So first of all, you got to start talking to people. Literally, just start talking to people about anything. It will already get you going because now talking to people won't be weird. You do it anyway. Then secondly, when you go to the gym, what you'll find is the first time you do it, you're just thinking about the weight and how hard it is. Can I even do 10 reps of this? What you do eventually when you've done enough sets and reps of workout is you can start thinking between workouts, how do I tweak my technique a little bit? What am I missing? Does my arm go out a little bit too much? Does it not go in? Then you find, wait a minute, the tiny bit of work I put on technique, like amplifies my fucking results. I'm getting way better. The muscles flowing better. It's the same with all this shit. So I would say very simply, I've got two really big picture pieces of advice. Before you're in that situation, you have to have already done some work, but it's simple. Before you're in that situation is when I want you to think about yourself. I want you to think about things like, do I make myself look presentable? By the way, do I actually have good hygiene? Do I just go out there and I'm randomly just fucking, I've been out in a t-shirt with boys stinking all day and now I'm going to try and go up to a girl in a cocktail dress? It's game over, mate. You're already on the fucking back foot. If you're presentable when you go out, if you take care with your hair, you get a regular haircut, you do things like you wear clothes that fit your body. By the way, if you can do diet and exercise and working out, everyone who's a man, the most OP thing about being a man is it's not purely about looks like it is for women. You can actually go in your brain, I'll use the magical numbers everyone loves. Say you think you're a 5. Mate, if you just diet and exercise a bit, you can instantly be a 7. Then get some nice clothing, maybe you're an 8. Now, you know what? Add in a fucking sense of humor and you could be fucking, the world's your oyster. So beforehand is when you want to focus on yourself. But when you're in the interaction, that is exactly when you will kill yourself if you only think about what you're feeling. If you're thinking about your thing, oh, I'm nervous and oh, what's going on in her head? No, in the moment, you want it to be like any conversation. You don't, if you raise the stakes too high, the pressure on everyone's crazy. The pressure on you to fail, the pressure on her to know that you can ask at the end for the numbers. No, you want it to feel like just another, you want it to be like an RPG and Final Fantasy 7 interaction. You go up, you press the button, you pick one of 3 options, you say the thing to them, they say something normal back, and then if everything feels right, then it will lead somewhere. Then you can ask for the number, then you can ask to go for the coffee, etc. So I think the other problem people have is the second they start talking to the girl, they're so inside their own head, thinking all these crazy thoughts, and it just fucks them up. By the way, in the game, almost everyone who talks, that's what they do. They're over-focused. Oh, if I fuck this move up here, I've got to get to... The really great players, like the Capsers of the world, they play with like a childlike joy, but they're not even thinking about that in the moment. They're pressing buttons, bro. They're just having fun, like moving around the map and stuff. They're not even thinking about things like that. So I'll just say some really big picture stuff like that, some really simple stuff. Right, that's going to be the last question. Thank you to everyone who watched Some of the Insight, who checked out our sponsors. Maybe you're going to go and enter that merch competition. You've still got a week or so to do it. Go into the channel on the Last Free Nation Discord and put in whatever it was. Go to the beginning of the episode. You'll find it all out there. And we'll see you next week at the end of MSI, where we'll find out who won and all the rest.